Thank you and good morning. We are going to get started on the complaint committee. It is Monday, December the 14th, and we're starting at 8:20 a.m. I'm going to turn it over to Laura in a minute. If I can take roll, Mr. Bobby Finger, Ms. Amy Tansley, present. Diane Tiefeteller,
Present.
Thank you. And I know Mr. Gambusa will be joining us soon, so we will go ahead and get started. As I mentioned, I accidentally emailed you the wrong version. We added cases, complaint cases, at the last minute, and so it's just some additions that were added to the last part of the cosmetology and the barber. So you're going to be working off the paper copies that you've got in your hand, and I will be more than happy to give you, I think, some time, and Laura can brief you in on the highlights. But we've got time for you to review and go through your notes. There's no major cases that I can think of, so Laura, they're all yours.
So like Roxana said, the cases that are going to be new that you didn't get emailed to you are going to be the last 10 or so on the new cosmetology cases, and then the first between 4 and 5 on the barber cases. But none of those were the kind of cases that I would have especially flagged for your consideration. The only case that I have flagged for us to talk about, I only have one. So if you guys want to take some time and flip through, and then we can discuss whatever you feel is important.
Laura, I just had a few questions.
Sure.
The first is cosmetology case 11.
Okay.
I just want to understand that this, there was not a $100 fee for expired license because the license was renewed in the shop and it was, the side agreed citation was paid there.
So, a lot of times when it's an owner and a personal license, they'll cite both of them.
Yep.
This person received an agreed citation for both those licenses separately, paid one of them thinking she had solved both cases.
Oh, okay.
So that was why I recommended we close it.
Okay. She'd already paid the agreed.
She had
back.
already paid.
Okay.
If both of those cases had come to me, I would have recommended the same amount she's already paid.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we were being consistent. I didn't realize that. Thank you. One other question about fees. Let me find it. It is cosmetology cases 61 through 65. And under the recommendation, you have to settle each matter by a consent order assessing $3,000 to each respondent? Or is that $1,000 for each of the 3 unlicensed individuals?
so that's $3,000 to the owner and $3,000 to the manager. We don't
Okay.
have so we have these names. I couldn't even verify if those names are correct. They would not cooperate with the inspector.
Okay.
So that's why I decided that we should just close and flag the cases against the people and instead charge $3,000 per unlicensed person to both the manager and the owner. The owner wasn't present. The manager was, but I thought they should both.
Okay, I just didn't understand
Right.
who it was to each. So, okay, I understand now. Thank you. For $1,000 for each unlicensed. Gotcha. Thank you. Oh, and there was one that was recommended revocation. Which one was that? $37. Cosmetology case 37. I was just making sure that that was because of the past, obviously, complaints of unlicensed activity, that's what you're recommending?
So the revocation is to case 35, actually. That's the shop. That's the one that has the significant history. And then I assessed 1,000 to the manager. And then again, the unlicensed person,
Yeah,
so I say the address, he just said he lived out of state.
yeah.
So that's another sort of closing flag, but at this point, the shop has had so much unlicensed activity that,
Oh, I agree. I am shocked by the number of cases we received this month of just consistent. Yeah. So no, I don't disagree. I just wanted to make sure that that's what you were saying. Thank you. Is that the same for 47 with the school?
yes. This school has a significant amount of history for the same type of violations over and over and over again, so, yeah, it was because of the history that I recommended revocation. They couldn't, especially because they couldn't provide almost any student files. I think they were able to find one. And I think on their hour reports, they have, estimate.
This is a school, and again, because everything's redacted, that's the good thing. We don't know the school. You all can just kind of look at the whole package. But back in 2014, at the end of 2014, we had two schools that, because of the hours not being tracked, the response in this particular school was that she had no space to maintain student files, therefore didn't have them. So we had several students whose hours we couldn't vet. We had to deny their reciprocity from Arkansas and then let Arkansas know, hey, we've sent you hours we can't now confirm. That school, the board recommended to be suspended, but they never signed that suspension. So this is all still an ongoing package with it, and yes, that's Laura's recommendation, and we would both agree.
What about 42? Is that the same school?
Yes. Oh, no, that's not. 42 is a separate school.
Her complaint history is,
Their complaint history is significant, but this was a consumer complaint filed by a student complaining that the school was allowing another student who they thought had licensed scabies and all kinds of terrible conditions to practice in the school. And the school actually responded showing that the student who was being complained about, I think she did show up one day with lice, and the school sent her away until she had a doctor's note clearing her, and the school provided the doctor's note. And then there was also a doctor's note that what all the students were saying, this other student had scabies. She didn't have scabies. She had an anxiety condition that was causing her to scratch her arms. So yes, they have significant history, but this was the kind of complaint where it seems like they were bullying the student, to be honest. So the school's response was strong enough for me to feel like we shouldn't go forward on it. One of the cases that I flagged that you guys may want to wait until you have a chance to talk to Mr. Gillingham and Ms. Richmond about it, but was case 41. This was also on a college. This was a case that was just so bizarre to me that I felt like it might be good to get some background information before I just wasn't really sure what an appropriate recommendation would be. This was a consumer complaint by a student who had been attending school receiving federal aid. The federal aid agency determined that she did not have a high school diploma, which isn't required to be enrolled in school, but is required to receive federal aid. So the school had to, the finances of it are confusing, but I think the school was on the hook and had to pay back the federal aid agency for all the aid she received, or she had to pay them back. But what the complaint is mostly about is she wrote in saying that she had gone to the school, explained that she didn't have a high school diploma or a GED, and asked them if she needed to get a GED before she started school. They said no. She says they filled out her FAFSA forms for her, and then she signed the papers. The school wrote in and said that she filled out her FAFSA forms and that she lied to them and said she had a high school diploma. What really bothered me about this is then they sent me the papers saying this is the high school certificate she turned in. We think it's really misleading. I think to a lay person it does look like a high school diploma, but it very clearly in the center of the page says credit for partial completion of high school, not a diploma certificate, which she had to submit to them before she could start school there. I wasn't sure how involved schools are in FAFSA forms. There's nothing I can really do about what she may or may not owe the government, but if they're allowing their students to sign up for loans that they're not qualified for and then letting them be on the hook for it later, I thought that was worth discussing before I came up with a recommendation. So you might want to think about that. You might have an opinion. You might want to ask Patricia and Ron what they think about it.
I know that I have some senior students, and our guidance department is helping them with their parents fill out the FAFSA before they go into another college or go to college. Kind of curious at why they would be filling out for the FAFSA anyway.
I don't think that she went straight from high school to cosmetology school. I think she dropped out of high school around 10th grade, had been working elsewhere, wanted to start cosmetology school, started talking with the owner of this school, and according to her, she asked them, do I need to be getting a GED to do this? And they said no. But the owner says that that was a conversation that never took place. And she had been paying, like in very low monthly payments, back what she owed. And then I guess she missed a few payments. And one of the personnel from the school showed, because she dropped out of school after all this happened, so she's now working somewhere else. And the owner, or not the owner, but somebody from the school that works at the school showed up at her job to talk to her about it. And that's what prompted her to file the complaint, because she thought they were harassing her, which is also a problem.
But with the comment that how involved schools are with, getting that information, are they not still ultimately responsible for accepting a certificate that's not valid? I mean, at the end of it all.
So that's why I was kind of struck here, because if it was simply a he said, she said, at the end of the day, she's the one that signs the FAFSA forms. Whether or not I believe if the school actually filled them out for her or not isn't really provable. But I agree with you. The school submitted to me what they said was a high school certificate, which they're saying is misleading, and they looked at it and thought it was a diploma. And I don't think anyone at an admissions school who's doing admissions at their school could look at that. I mean, I looked at it for maybe 3 minutes and knew it wasn't a high school diploma. And I haven't looked at a high school diploma since I graduated high school. So I don't believe them that it was misleading. I don't believe that they could see that certificate and not know what they were looking at, which is why I have to believe they knew that she had not graduated high school. But they allowed her to sign up for FAFSA and check a box saying that she had. So that's why I have a real problem with this case, but it's very odd. It's kind of out there. So that's why I thought it was deserving of some discussion.
We had to make a decision this minute. I know which way I'd vote, but I think your recommendation of deferring to the rest of the board for discussion is probably a good way to go.
I'm assuming that there's some sort of complaint process with the federal government for instances like these.
I would assume, I think that for them it's a lot more simple. This case is more simple because I signed a form saying she had graduated high school. I'm not sure if the school has to verify that's true or not to the federal aid agency. I had like I couldn't get that information from them. I had hoped that Ron or Patricia might be able to shed some light on it. So for them, as soon as it occurred to them that she wasn't eligible, I think they went through the school to contact her to say, you have to pay this money back. Hello, Mr. Gillihan.
Good morning, it's Ron Gillihan. To your statement there, all schools are required to certify to those additional bodies that they have verified high school diplomas.
And we do know, just to add a side note, that many schools help students fill those out. Like you do at the high school level, our private schools, and I'm sure even the technical schools, help students fill out the FAFSA. So there's that fine line between helping and maybe doing it all the way through, and as Laura said, you know, who really is signing
Right.
for what's there.
Well, I know when I taught in the private school, we had to have a copy of, so I mean, you had to verify it. You know, you get a copy of it, then you even called because they can be duplicated. So I agree. I think the school had something, I think they knew.
So Laura, let me ask you this question. What responsibility does this board have, considering this is an issue between the school, the federal government, and the student?
So, as far as the money goes and who has to pay for that, that is not something that we can really make a decision on. That's going to just be up to the federal aid agency and the student. We can cite a school for unprofessional conduct if we think that they are mistreating their students and like what kind of punishment or discipline is appropriate for this kind of violation.
We don't know if this has happened before or if any of the other students have.
No, I could, no, I don't. Nobody's ever complained about, I mean, you see their history is actually very, very low for being open since '94. And no other student was mentioned in this.
Do we bring this to the greater board's attention?
We can hold off until this afternoon to make a determination on this specific case. We can move on from that case and discuss it with the full board this afternoon, and we can just move on to any other cases you may have questions on.
I have one on 58. I know that's jumping a pretty good amount here, but I have a little bit of a challenge with the penalty against the charge itself, where the owners refuse to sign citations. And then, is this accurate that the information below that, when the inspector attempted to leave the shop and the respondent attempted to block his exit?
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah, I think that's like so unacceptable. It's ridiculous. And I think for $1,250 to each respondent, that's 2 respondents?
Yeah, one's to the shop, and then the other is to the new owner. There's 2 people there because they're in the process of trying to switch ownership. And when the inspector showed up to do that inspection to change ownership. Both the old owner and the new owner were there. I think the old owner's probably gonna keep working there. So case 57 is on the shop license, which is still owned by the old owner. And case 58, I believe, is on the new owner. So they were both there. He showed up to do the shop ownership change inspection. They failed. He cited them for their violations. They wouldn't sign it, which isn't completely uncommon. I think a lot of people are nervous. It's harder to prove that they had notice of the violation, but we just have to have an inspector testify that that happened. But a lot of people are nervous about signing inspections, but these people specifically didn't want to sign it because they didn't agree with the violations. So because this shop has been a little bit testy before, this inspector had been sort of like pre-coached that if things get heated, just leave. So he went to leave, and one of the owners grabbed onto his arm and tried to pull him back, and then he was like, no, I'm leaving, kind of pulled away, kept walking, and then I think that same person then went and was like trying to block him from leaving the door. At that point, I think he just pushed, forced past him.
I don't think, I mean, that, for a busy hairdresser, that's a week's salary. And I think for that kind of behavior, that's totally unacceptable. That I don't know if it's money as much as suspension of license, or, and especially if they have to be coached that it might be testy going in, I think it's already a major red flag. And then it happened once they went in. I think the lack of respect for this inspector needs to be brought to whatever the maximum could be.
I could say 2,000 against each licensee. That's $1,000 for the unlicensed activity and $1,000 for the unprofessional conduct. Did you want to go for a suspension of license, or?
But let me ask you this question. I'm assuming that there's a change of ownership because of unlicensed activity?
So that would kind of be, I don't know why they are choosing to change ownership. Sometimes it appears that people are trying to erase history, but it's not as if we know that specifically.
Okay, and you don't have the history, the shop history is included on 57?
Yep.
So there isn't a lengthy list of, there's one obviously, but not a book like some of these others. I agree with,
$1,000 citation on 57 is possibly for unlicensed activity, because I don't think we cite that high for
number sounds,
anything else on 57, right? Could flag that if that shop, again, is approved and they've changed hands, as Laura says, and it appears that the previous owner is working there, we can definitely flag the shop to be inspected every 3 months.
I don't disagree with Frank that I think $1,000 for unlicensed activity and then $250 for being so disrespectful to the inspector. $250 isn't very much to treat someone like that. He then has to come back a third time, I would imagine, to, yeah.
Costing us more than that to keep an eye on them than what they're paying. I mean, it's kind of upside down mathematics to me. If you, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with that number being raised, and some kind of last warning, or
1,000, or would you like to go lower? Or?
Well, the unlicensed activity is $1,000, correct? So then it's just what number do you want to apply to the unprofessional conduct?
what precedent has been set so far. What's been the highest that we've ever charged?
So we charged, or not charged, but we assessed $250 for unprofessional conduct, I think last month, but there was no physical altercation. It
See,
was
that's the
more
biggest
verbal.
challenge I got right there, is when
But
you start putting your hands
yeah.
on people, you're out
That
of line.
was just, where I got that number, but yes, this is a little more heated than just verbal altercation, so.
And could there also, on top of that, be any kind of warning if this was to happen again, that you either lose your license for X amount of time, or it gets revoked or something that doesn't let you be a Wild West cowboy out there, and we can't go in and do our jobs and inspect the salon under the license which they're governed.
Not aware of a mechanism that would allow us to defend. I mean, I can write in a letter, if this happens again, we're going to seek revocation of your license. But I'm not aware of a mechanism that would allow us to say, like, automatic revocation if this happens again. Because if it happened again, we would still have to go through all the channels.
I think if it
All the
happened again
appropriate
and it did go
channels.
through the channels, we'd probably get the right result anyway. So I'd still be comfortable with that
You just want me to put that
written
in
warning
the
and
cover letter?
and raising the fee. That's my recommendation.
What would you like to raise it to?
I'm comfortable with the 1,000. It's $250. It's not. It's like a bee sting. I mean,
So I'm going to assess 2,000 to each respondent, 1,000 for unlicensed activity, and 1,000 for the physical altercation. And then in my cover letter, I sent a cover letter with every consent order. But in that cover letter specifically, on both of them, I'm going to say if this happens again, the board is likely to seek revocation. I can make it sound as scary as you want.
I think we have to defend our inspectors and support them. He shouldn't feel any different walking back into this shop to do his job.
shouldn't have had to feel like you had to be coached walking in a second time. I mean, if we turn the clock back.
Yeah, I agree.
Tough dude. He was probably picked specifically to inspect this shop because they are so difficult, if that gives you any comfort.
Did you also want to flag the new shop so that it's inspected more often?
That's probably a good idea, considering they've already got unlicensed activity going on. Did y'all see the news article? You guys probably didn't hear in Nashville where some woman was faking being a nurse.
I heard that on the news.
Yeah. Had worked in several health facilities here in town. Was not a licensed or registered nurse, and they'd allowed her to work.
I did not see that.
Crazy cray-cray.
I don't feel that bad now after reading all these cases.
No, I mean, it sort
It's
of.
amazing, isn't it?
Yes, and sad. And I thought, you know what? I mean, thank goodness. I mean, not to say that it's not comparable, but unlicensed activity, I mean, that's just, if we know it's going on, at what point are we liable for not resolving this if something horrible was to come before our attention and we knew it was going on and we weren't doing anything?
And I think with fees like 100 and 250 and all, is almost a ticket in advance to say, you know what, I'll roll the dice on this because I'm going to make 500, 600, 700 a week, and if I get caught in 9 months from now, I pay $100 or $250. There's nothing to deter you from doing it.
I agree with you, Laura, of moving forward with revocation for those repeat offenders. I mean, because obviously, to Frank's point, there's just a cost of doing business.
They're consciously making that decision in advance, which is something completely different than you moved and your license didn't get mailed to your house and you're late. I mean,
Now, the unlicensed, though, and I'll remind the board, is 1,000. If it is an unlicensed individual, never licensed, the $100 penalty that you're seeing is for the expired. When we kind of readdress the structure for the agreed citations, we realize that folks on occasion forget to renew, and we wanted to do them a little bit different for those. So, anything else? Okay, we need to wrap.
If you guys don't have any more questions for any cases, we should probably move on to the reciprocity committee. We'll discuss case 41 with the full board, and then the board can adopt the legal report then.
I have one more.
Oh,
that
yeah.
I put a note on case 74. Where a respondent was cited as an owner of a shop following an inspection. At the time of inspection, the shop had 2 unlicensed persons practicing. And the recommendation there is $2,500. I think that's a fair number tied to that. I think the biggest challenge here is when we start seeing when we see multiple unlicensed people in one place. I think that's really what we got to start flagging. And I know we don't have tons of people to go inspecting on a regular basis, but I think people that are choosing to do that, it's common practice more so than just unlucky timing. So wherever we have these multiples, I think we got to really sort of dig down a little bit deeper.
I can keep that in mind. Sometimes I don't always maximize penalties out to the absolute most, but where we have these multiple respondents, I can make sure going forward that I'm doing that to sort of create more of a deterrent.
On 84, there's a language that says, at the time of inspection, the cosmetologist was, the employee was present and was practicing barbering on a customer. What's the definition of practicing barbering under a cosmetologist license, just for my edification? Because there's so much crossover there between what, is scissor over comb barbering, and what's the definition of that? And I only ask this.
They are a barber. That respondent is a barber, but they had an expired barber license.
Oh, so they were practicing,
I guess
period.
technically I could have
Gotcha.
charged, or not charged, I could have cited them for unlicensed activity as a cosmetologist if they were giving a haircut or a crossover, but they're in a barber shop, they have a barber license, it was expired, and they were
But
practicing.
they were practicing, period, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got confused with wondering what the difference was between cosmetology and barbering. Okay, thank you for that.
Laura, thank you.
We good? No more questions?
How's traffic?
Terrible.
Sorry.
So we're just gonna, do we want to
Do you want me to
approve
do a motion?
You
these?
can make a motion to adopt now, and then we'll just have the whole board re-adopt after we discuss case 41. So if you want to make a motion.
Make a motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion to adopt in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Our complaint committee is adjourned. Thank you very much. And the full meeting starts at 10. We will start with our reciprocity committee meeting here in about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah?
Just have like the dapper.
Good morning.
Step aside, I mean,
Thank you and good morning.
Morning.
We are going to get started with the Reciprocity Committee meeting. Today is Monday, December the 14th, and we are starting at about 8:56. On your iPads, if you will please start. We have appearing before the board, Mr. Samuel Ziobic. I'm sorry if I killed his name. Samuel? It's okay. Come on up to the podium, in case the board has questions. Make sure if they do ask you when you're speaking that goes to record.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
And real quick, we've got everybody present here for the committee, so we are getting started.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, if you just state your name for the record.
Samuel Jobeck.
Okay, on your iPads, you have an application for reciprocity of a cosmetology license from Massachusetts for Mr. Samuel Jovac. Certification has not been received in the board office yet, but because we do not have a January meeting, Mr. Zovac and I spoke, and I agreed to present. So anything that the committee decides now will be pending the office receiving all the required documentation, otherwise it cannot go through. He has a job lined up, and so that's one of the reasons that we definitely didn't want to wait till February. The board has Massachusetts always listed as 1,000 hours, so we're going to assume that that would be correct. It's what's on his application, and it should match. They also, Massachusetts does both the theory and the practical exam, so that should not be an issue. He is just under the 5 years required for the extra 500 hours that he's missing. Normally, our statute says if there's 5 years, I would be able to approve him, but he's just under that time frame. He's got letters here from former employers that state his experience are right at about a little bit over 4 years. And one of those letters is also regarding his apprenticeship time, so I will let you ask him any questions you see fit. That additional experience that he has as an apprentice is between February 2011 and August 2012. And at this point, my recommendation would be that he's so close that as long as the paperwork arrives in the office showing that that is, in fact, he is licensed in Massachusetts, I would recommend that we approve his reciprocity application.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Jobeck. It's nice to see you guys here. If I'll take just a minute to review your information. So you did an apprenticeship in your home state?
I did, yes. It was at the salon that I worked at for the remainder period of being licensed. So do you want me to kind of explain what I did there?
If you don't mind, just a little,
Yeah,
little
absolutely.
overview.
So when I was still in school, I graduated in April, but that February I decided to take initiative and I kind of looked around for, the best salon, and I found this this very nice guy named Ralph and of Salon Rafael Nina's in Hyannis, and he kind of took me under his wing in the sense of he said, listen, I can't pay you because you are not licensed yet. But what I could do is I can have you come in and shadow me and kind of see how we, run the shop, and you could watch me do haircuts and coloring, and kind of get a gist of a sanitary work environment and see what it's like. So I did that for I think a little over a year, what it states, and then from there, once I was I had been licensed, and he felt comfortable and confident in putting me on the floor. So at that point, I became a full-time on-the-floor hairstylist.
You ever had a complaint filed against you?
No.
Okay.
So was it after your 1,000 hours that you did the apprenticeship?
It was before. Oh, you mean, yes, I was still doing the apprenticeship, but as well when I was licensed.
In addition to
In
your
addition
training.
to being already licensed. But I started that apprenticeship in February. I was licensed of September that same year.
Okay. And you just did that on your own initiative?
I did, yeah. I lived with my mother, so that was a nice financial thing where
yeah.
I was able to, at that point, just kind of get the experience in the salon atmosphere.
Hope you do her hair for free.
I do.
Okay, it says you work from 8:12 to 12:14, and then again from 4:15 to 10:15, right? Did you work in between the?
I did, yes.
You
I worked
did?
up in Boston, Newbury Street at
Okay.
Salon Acote.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Make a motion to accept his hours, as
Second.
long as his paperwork comes in.
Okay. A motion and a second that we grant reciprocity pending the receival of all the documents that we need in the office.
Thank you very much.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Congratulations.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on your iPads, you have an application for reciprocity of a cosmetology license from Michigan for Ms. Fawzia Abdel Shahib. Ms. Fawzia, come on up. Red light is. Okay, Ms. Abdel Shahib and her husband are appearing before the board, and I believe they're kids. I've had the pleasure of meeting them in the board office and speak to them several times. They're here to answer any questions you might have. On your iPads, her information starts on page 7. The certification shows an initial licensure in August 2011, and this is with hours received by reciprocity from Egypt, and this is something that Michigan, of course, does do. Ms. Abdel Shahib was able to test in Michigan in her native language, so that is the big difference that we have at this moment. The documents that are provided include her resume, and I'll give the committee plenty of time to look at that. Also, her PSI passing score on her practical, and a letter from her explaining her situation. She's very concerned and stressed about having the possibility of testing in English. And she has spoken to me regarding the anxiety that this possibility brings her. She has many years' experience in her country practicing, and that's been some of our conversations, the difficulty that it would cause her to have to start all over again. And she would like the board to consider the past exams that she had in Michigan and approve her for reciprocity as it is. So I'll let the board review that and then ask any questions that you would like.
The practical, did she take a written exam? In your language? So she's not missing any exams?
She's not. What the board has done is when, and Michigan is the main one that accepts hours and licenses from other countries, they will test them. And we have, because there's not been any work experience or not a lot, we have had them retest here, but we run into the language difficulties. And so that's just something for us to concern. In several of the occasions, we've waived the theory and gone straight to the practical exam when the years of experience working in the States has not been there. She definitely has the lengthy
that.
experience working back home. And again, I'll let her answer, but that's the dilemma we've been in, is that the exam isn't offered in every language. Michigan does a translator, I believe. Am I correct? It's a translator.
Oh, okay. And then
That's allowed.
in June of this year, you took the practical exam and passed it?
Yes.
Okay. I don't see any reason that she take
I
a
don't-
practical exam again.
Or I think she's got the experience too, so I think, and she's done the written. I'm good with making a motion of accepting.
I'd second that.
Motion and a second that we grant reciprocity. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Good luck.
Congratulations and good luck.
Yay.
Don't be
Thank you very
stressed
much.
anymore.
Don't stress.
Just relax.
Thank you.
Okay, I quit. I'm done.
Have a good Christmas. We're done, okay?
It's not gonna, the rest of it's not gonna go this easy.
And no, I didn't do that when you did.
Yeah, really.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Good
welcome.
luck.
Good luck.
Okay.
No.
Okay, next we have an application for reciprocity of a cosmetology license from California for Claudia Aleman. The certification shows the license was issued in September 2015 with 2,120 hours completed in 1993 in El Salvador. The certificates would appear to be by examination. There is no work experience in California. Recommendations that the applicant take the Tennessee examination.
Both parts?
That's what we have done.
Yeah.
Again,
I'd be comfortable with her taking both parts.
She didn't work in California at all, but
that's correct, she has not.
Wow.
Advantage we have, although the language may be an issue, we now have it in Spanish here.
I make a motion for her to take both exams.
Second.
Motion and a second that she take both Tennessee exams. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, we have an application to test as an esthetician with hours from Virginia for Miss Victoria Dotson. Apprenticeship documentation from Virginia shows that Ms. Dotson completed hours between April 2012 and June 2014. Because Ms. Dotson has not tested in Virginia, she actually does not have a license. So this is really a request for her hours, if you will, given that she has not been licensed in Virginia. She is still short 110 hours based on her records. So she submitted a letter from an employer where she did apprentice hours, as well as her own letter explaining the situation she is under. She's got a young child, and so she was unable to attend the meeting. She does have enough manicuring hours. She's actually got both those licenses. So the board office was able to approve her for testing for the manicuring hours. It's the aesthetics piece that she's short the 110.
She get 150 credited for having her nail license.
You know, I don't know how
I think-
that's a really good question.
they do.
They may or may not. We don't get to see that deep into what their
Yeah.
process is. My recommendation would be that we approve it for the exams and,
I think because you get credit for, if you go into another field, you get 150 hours credit, so that would give her hours. So I make a motion for her to take the test.
Second?
Motion and a second that she take both Tennessee exams. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
we have an application for reciprocity of our master barber hours and experience from Morocco for Abdel Fattah Halouri. Translated documents provided include certification that states 1,500 hours were obtained between October 1999 and July of 2000. Certificate of experience states that he was employed between January 2006 and December 2008 in Meknes. There is no work experience in the United States or U.S. territory, and no itemized transcript for the breakdown of hours was able to be provided. My recommendation is that the applicant take the Tennessee examination.
He hasn't worked in the States since,
He has not. And he really doesn't have a license at all. The
Right.
difference with the applicant that we just saw is that she did have a
She had a
Michigan.
license.
Yeah, and Michigan evaluates those hours, and then, like I said, they allow them to have a translator in there.
States that he has 1,500 hours
Documents do, yes.
from Morocco.
Correct.
Well, we would know if he passes both exams, if he knows his.
That would be my recommendation.
I'd move he take both tests.
Second.
Motion and a second that he take both Tennessee exams. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Application for reciprocity of cosmetology hours and experience from Pakistan for Rosina Khan. Translated documents provided include certificate of completion that states 1,522 hours were obtained between December 2008 and May 2010. There's no work experience in the United States or U.S. territory. My recommendation would be that the applicant take the Tennessee examination.
Pretty much the same as the last one, correct?
Motion that she take both parts of the test.
Second.
Motion and a second that she take both Tennessee exams. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Anybody may or may not know.
Sure.
I'm looking at this document. I'm not sure what page it is. It says Face Care Beauty Parlor and Training Center.
34, yeah.
Okay. In the right-hand corner of that at the top,
Notary?
the notary. I know that in the U.S. we typically have notaries all the time, but do other countries use notary stamps like that? It's just odd to me that the way that looks.
And they do, and in some countries in Latin America, they're very respected. They're right up there, close to attorneys. It's an interesting thing.
Okay.
The dilemma that we face, as you know, with international documents, is there's just
we
really no
verify?
good way for us to determine what is, which is why I think the board has consistently asked for the exams.
I'm really not
But you're-
questioning
you're
the
right.
document.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before, and it just looked odd.
And it's in English.
That's
Yes.
exactly in English.
Yes. Okay, so next on your iPads, we are on page 35, and this is an application for reciprocity of a cosmetology license from New Jersey for Brittany Manohan. Ms. Manohan wanted to appear before the board. She has a 2-year-old child and really contemplated coming. She was determined to be able to explain her situation to you. The certification shows an initial licensure in October 2007 by examination in New Jersey with 1,200 hours. She is also licensed as of April 2015 in North Carolina. Her husband is in the military, and therefore they have had to move often. She does not have the complete work history to provide for the 5 years. And she's providing a letter for you to review that explains her situation some. And that's the only document that she could provide. My recommendation is that she be approved for reciprocity, given the fact that she's got 2 different state licenses, so she's worked licensed in both states. It's just hard with our military to always have that proof
Work
of document.
experience.
Sometimes, yeah, they don't get settled into their careers long enough.
Motion to accept her hours and her license.
I'd second.
Motion and a second to grant reciprocity. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Application for reciprocity of a cosmetology license from Illinois for Thai Chow Lee. Certification shows initial licensure in May 2014 by endorsement from Vietnam. Documents provided show that Ms. Lee completed 1,880 hours in August of 2007. The letter from Ms. Lee states someone helped her complete the forms and that she attended a school in Illinois and did actually 1,500 hours. I was able to contact Ms. Lee directly, and with the assistance of the friend that had more of the language, she in fact did state that the certification information is accurate, that she did not attend a school in Illinois. So her education is strictly coming from her education in Vietnam. And, you know, again, it's hard to know what those hours were. She has no breakdown. My recommendation would be that the applicant take the Tennessee examination.
And the mistakes on the application are from assistants trying to get it filled out with
Yes.
language barrier.
Yes, that's to the best of my conversation with her and the person. They, you know, misunderstood what she did. Illinois considers endorsement, and Illinois does do the license. I don't know that they consistently test. They consider it reciprocal, so we've consistently with that.
She's
aspect
even
of testing.
saying here that she didn't go to the school in Minnesota. She wasn't trying to be deceptive, so.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
that's my feeling as well.
Here's a case where, since we have the exam.
language.
Yeah, Vietnamese, then
Yeah.
she's good to take it.
Motion for her to test.
Second.
Motion and a second that she take both Tennessee exams. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next on your iPad, we have an application for reciprocity of a master license from Puerto Rico for Christian Rivera. Mr. Rivera? Se asegura que estoy prendido, ¿ok?
I was looking for a minute.
I've got one in here.
Mr. Rivera is appearing before the board to answer any questions you might have. Certification shows an initial license in June 2015 with 1,140 hours. The license was able to be confirmed with the system in Puerto Rico. Ms. Coppinger might remember, we had some issues with being able to confirm licenses with Puerto Rico, so this was one of our delays, and he's been waiting patiently with me and the office to be able to confirm these things. So the license was able to be confirmed. Notarized documents by actually his barber professor show he has work experience between 2005 and 2010, which is permitted in Puerto Rico. They do not actually even have to obtain a license to work there, but his goes back to June 2015. And he does not have experience in the industry after 2010, and he can explain that to him, or I'll be happy to help interpret. And that's because of his move here to the States. And so he's been waiting on this license. My recommendation would be that he take one of the exams at least, and I'll leave that up to the board to decide. He's got the years of experience if we're counting 2005 to 2010, so I think we're comfortable with the hours if we accept those 5 years instead of the last 5.
360 hours short.
Yes.
That's a little much, but, you know, I understand that in Puerto Rico, since they don't have to have a license, they can just start working at a particular time, so.
And you haven't worked since 2010?
Desde el 2010 que no trabaja en la industria, ¿verdad? He's been living in Tennessee since 2011, and he lived in New York for a little bit, so yes, he's not been licensed and working since 2010.
He didn't do hair in New York.
So he did work some in New York, but he did not have a license in New York, right?
Okay, all right.
Has he ever taken an exam of any kind?
Puerto Rico, and that is correct. They do have the theory and the practical exam. So that's what he had to take in order to obtain this license. So he has those. Barbering exam is not offered in Spanish, but
How would you feel about
Wow.
the practical exam? Yeah, if he would do the practical.
Thank Ron.
I'm personally, I'm not so concerned, about practical skills and things like that. He's got the work experience in the past. It's the understanding of our rules and regulations. It's actually the written part in this particular case that'll be more important.
yes, he has studied our rules and laws. So I've asked him if the language con el idioma se sentiría cómodo dándolo, porque no lo tenemos. Says that he's very familiar with the forms of barbering and cuts, and he always stays on top of things. It would be simpler for him to show that.
I have a simple question for him.
Yes.
Who's responsible for everything that goes on in his barber shop?
I would be if I'm the owner.
Fine, I think he's got a pretty good understanding. I'd move that we grant him reciprocity.
Second. No exam.
No exam.
Motion and a second that we grant reciprocity. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Felicito.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Get to
Good
work.
luck. Make some money.
Thank you.
You're gonna be his first haircut.
We have an application for reciprocity of a manicurist license from Ohio for Ms. Darla Schwartz. The certification shows initial licensure in September 1989 by examination. Ms. Schwartz provided several letters from previous employers regarding her experience. She's gone some gaps of time during which she was going back to school, and then she moved to Kentucky and now is in Tennessee, where she doesn't have continuous work experience. But again, the letters are presented there for you to review. She's asking for consideration of all the years in her experience and for approval of her reciprocal license. My recommendation would be that we approve her license given all the years.
Taking both tests
In
somewhere?
Ohio, yes. What she's really short is the hours.
Okay.
She has, I believe, only 300. Let me look. 200. But she's been licensed continuously since 1989. She just hasn't been able to prove the work experience from all those years.
Ohio requires just 200 hours?
Yeah, and I thought it was 3, but I'm going to pull it just so we definitely have it. It is much lower than ours, I know that, for that particular license. The others line up pretty good. $200, manicuring or nail tech. They have a hairstylist license, that's $1,200. Esthetician is $600, so it's a little bit lower. And then they have that odd thing with the instructors, where if you've managed a shop for X number of years, you can be an instructor.
We require 600, right?
For manicuring, yes, 600.
They use the same exams that we do?
Ohio? No, I don't think that's PSI, no. I think they are the NIC. So she's got the exam, just very few hours, the work history. It's actually an Ohio State Board exam since 2011, but prior to that, I think it was the NIC. And she's been licensed since '89. Just without the tax records or anything for the last 5 consecutive years, I've got to bring it to the board. The fact that she's been licensed for so long, and the letters from her employers would show that she's had work experience. It's just not been continuous and not the last 5.
Looks like she was doing nails in
Village.
a
yeah,
village,
well,
a nursing home
Nursing
or a
home,
assisted care cat setting. Such a low percentage of hours here in the States, and then they give the, I'm sorry, you may have already said this, they give the test.
They do. Ohio is by examination. The hours are low. The main reason for my recommendation to approve her is just the years of experience she's had since '89. You know, she's got 3 different employers stating that she's worked. It's just a while ago. We could, if the board's not comfortable with full approval, recommend one of the exams. That would at least, if she's been away from it for a while, show that she's kept up with it.
Written exam.
Second.
Motion and a second that she take the Tennessee written exam. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
And I will ask PSI to make the exception. The theory exam is something they've asked us to steer away from just doing that one, although I see its huge purpose. Because once you complete it, PSI's system is expecting you to take the practical. It's almost like it can't bypass that to really give you the completion. So we will keep an eye on her so that when the theory happens, we ask PSI manually, you know, to do the application that you're aware of. So
Okay.
let me make some notes here. Next, we have an application for reciprocity of a cosmetology license from Pennsylvania for Nicole Schaefer. Certification shows initial licensure in 1991 by examination with 1,250 hours. Ms. Schaefer has provided letters from employers supporting work experience in the industry between 1991 and 2002 at Head Shaper's Salon, and 2002 and 2007 with Hair Beyond both salons. Both of these are in Pennsylvania. The recommendation is that the applicant be approved for reciprocal license.
She didn't have any work history in the last 8 years. Is that
Correct.
right?
She's been away since 2007, and she's missing 250 hours. Percentage-wise, it's not that big, but she's been in the industry since '91.
Wait a minute. Am I reading the right thing, that she was working as a registered nurse from 2010 to 2014?
That is correct.
Recommend just giving her reciprocity is what you think.
I do, for her length of employment. The extra experience outside of the industry would, mean she's educated in those areas as well. The number of hours that she's missing percentage-wise is not that high. And
I'll make a motion.
Pennsylvania does test, correct?
yes, that is correct.
Okay. I'll make a motion to grant a reciprocity.
Second.
Motion and a second that we grant reciprocity. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
And our last applicant, this is an application for reciprocity of cosmetology hours from Vietnam for Ms. Naido. And, the applicants usually pull up whatever application sounds like what they need to complete. So you'll find that sometimes I'm presenting their hours through reciprocity versus through testing, but in reality, international hours end up all having to be presented to the board. She has presented translated documents that include the certification of completion. That states that she has done 714 hours. And it's actually in manicuring, not cosmetology. So I apologize if I said cosmetology. Her application is for manicurist hours, and we require the 600. Her information on page 67, the last page on your iPad, shows the breakdown of the hours for 714. Again, there's no way for us to really vet these transcripts. And it says that she just recently received those. My recommendation is that she take both Tennessee exams.
Wanted to be manicurist, right?
That is correct.
Okay, because in her letter it says she has cosmetology. Certificate of cosmetology. So I'd make a recommendation for her to do both tests and just make sure she understands it's just for nails,
Oh, yeah.
that it's not with her.
We get to put them through, so that's the plus.
I would second.
Motion and a second that she take both Tennessee exams. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And that is the last applicant that we have. So the committee stands adjourned, and it is 9:30. We will start the full meeting at 10 o'clock unless the group has any other questions. No? Thank you very much. The rulemaking, and they're done. We're at that point where the three sets are gonna be. We are all ready. Thank you.
This meeting of the State Board of Cosmetology and Barber Examiners is now called to order. At this time, we'll have a roll call.
Thank you, Chairman Mr. Gillahan. I will go ahead and start with our roll call. Ms. Kelly Barger,
Present.
Ms. Anita Charlton, Ms. Nina Coppinger,
Present.
Mr. Bobby Finger,
Here.
Mr. Frank Gambusa,
Here.
Mr. Ron Gillahan,
Here.
Ms. Brenda Graham,
Here.
Ms. Yvette Granger, Ms. Patricia Richmond,
Present.
Ms. Judy McAllister,
Present.
Mona Sappenfield,
Present.
Ms. Amy Tansley,
Present.
and Ms. Diane Tiefenthaler.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, we will take just a moment and recognize our guests out here. Thank you, folks, for coming in today. We appreciate you being at your board meeting to see how we're overseeing your industry. It's good to see your faces this close to the holidays. Are there any folks here from schools today? Wonderful. Could you stand up and identify your school and tell us who you are? Welcome. Glad to have you. Okay. Do we have another school? Georgia Career. Good to have you. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate it very much. We would need to have a motion to approve the November 2nd Meeting minutes, if there are no additions, corrections, or deletions.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Tiefenteller and seconded by Ms. McAllister. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. And we're
Thank you. We are ready to proceed. We are going to start on your iPads on the appearing before the board. We have a change in ownership for a school. This is for Hamblin School of Beauty, and that application starts on page 3. Ms. Allison Jarnigan, if I could ask you to come on up. And if the board- Light is red.
Again, thank you for coming out, and you're going to have a change of ownership.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This school is located in Morristown. The board office has received the application, the payment, floor plan, and the current documents for their contracts with their students. Everything is on your iPads, as well as we were lucky to be able to get her to this board meeting so we can do the transition. Because it's a change in location, if the board is okay, we've been doing just a field inspector going out to make sure that everything's in order, and then we would be able to do the new license.
New owner and a new location?
No, they've not moved, it's a brand-new owner simply.
Oh, okay.
Are you making any physical changes to the structure of the school, or are you adding any space to it, or taking anything away?
No, sir, everything's the same.
If I could, Ms. Jardigan, I think I meant to ask and possibly didn't. How many students do you currently have?
Currently, I believe we have 12.
Thank you, just my curiosity.
Second floor with it? Is there an elevator or just stairs?
Just stairs.
With change of ownership, we don't revert back to the minimum 20 student requirement.
That's correct, we do not, yeah.
Hi, how are you? How did you tell us about how you came about pursuing ownership of this school? I pretty much grew up there. Diane Moody was the previous owner. Well, she still is right now. And I've been there since, gosh, I guess since I was born, you know. And then I went to school there almost 4 years ago, and then that opportunity was left open to me to take that over. And I've always wanted to be an instructor, but I never had dreamed of owning a school. And when that opportunity was given to me, I wanted to do that. That was something that I really thought that I would enjoy. And as far as now, I really do enjoy it. Okay, thank you.
It looks like you've got all your paperwork in order and everything to me. Everything looks good. I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, seconded by Ms. Tanksley. Is there any other questions or discussion?
I don't know where it's mandatory. I believe it is. Where's your hot water heater?
It's in the back with the washer and the dryer.
did have a question before I call for the vote. I'm reading in your enrollment agreement about refunds to a student if they withdraw during the first 4 weeks. Charges won't exceed 50% of the course price. How do you determine that 50%? Is it a prorated?
Well, normally if it is, we've got stated in there the 50%, and we go over that with them, so we just calculate it's 3,400 for the tuition, and if they have that 700 down, we have to have that down at the beginning, and when they make that monthly payment, we'll give them that 50% back from what they had gave.
Oh, you're actually just going to keep the 50%? Is what you're
Yes.
saying? Okay, all right. Questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have an additional makeup curriculum being added to Georgia Career Institute. Appearing before the board is Ms. Lauren Davis. Ms. Davis, come on up. Button is on.
And I do want to point out that I have Laura McCracken with me, who is an educator and curriculum developer for the program as well.
Thank you for coming. You want to add some hours here. I'm assuming this is for an additional coursework, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you will see in the information, and you have quite a bit of documents that they've prepared and submitted, which are all on your iPads. This is a new program. They're planning to offer the cosmetology course at the 1,500, plus a program at 1,700, which would include 200 additional hours for makeup training. The new enrollment agreement is also provided here for you to review, along with the course syllabus and the weekly breakdown of their classes. If you've got any questions that she can answer regarding how this would lay out. I believe at the last meeting, we approved something very similar.
Will they be given a certificate for the extra 200 hours?
Yes, ma'am, they will. And there's also individual vendor certifications built into the program, as eyelash extensions, for example, which is a vendor certified.
Their license will just show that they have 1,500 cosmetology hours.
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
This does not create a new program under our rules. This is, I think, if I understand the way this needs to work correctly, for accreditation bodies and so forth, if there's any additional hours requirements, then there has to be a justification and an approval for that, whether it's a certificate through the school. The state is not offering any other endorsement or anything like that.
Do we actually vote on it and approve it?
We want to give them permission, if the board sees fit, to do this, so that it's recognized that they have permission to do it. But we're not going to certify 1,700 hours for anyone. And the students, a student who chooses not to take the 1,700 hours is not required to. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It is totally totally choice-based. They have the option to pursue additional training or not.
I think I asked last month if a student chooses to enroll in the 1,700-hour course and then at some point changes their mind and only wants to complete at 1,500 hours, what is your procedure for that?
What we've decided to do is we are not going to enroll them in the 1,700-hour program at the beginning. All students will enroll in the normal cosmetology 1,500-hour program, and then at the the end of their last 100 hours, they will have the option to choose to enroll into a 17 program or not. But all students will currently enroll into the cosmetology 1,500 program until the last 100 hours.
Essentially an advanced training opportunity to give them more hours while they're at the school. I don't mean to put words in her mouth.
And you're exactly right.
Only licensed instructors are going to be teaching this course?
Yes, sir. Either licensed cosmetologists or licensed estheticians, educators.
Will you be offering the extra 200 hours to the aesthetics course as well?
Hopefully, we will. That's the ultimate goal.
Questions?
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
We have a motion that's been properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Congratulations and good luck with your program.
Thank you very much.
Next on our agenda, we have our applicants for examination. We have an application from Ms. Brittany Anderson. This is regarding felonies in the past 3 years. This individual has provided a letter from her school as well as her individual. Both are on your iPads via email. And with the board's agreement, an agreed order for a probationary period of 2 years. That's our standard practice, will be sent to her. Once that order is signed and back at the board office, then we approve the testing phase, and she would be able to obtain her license once she passes both exams. Just one, Brittany Anderson.
Oh, just one?
Yeah,
Sorry.
last month, I think. That 3 years difference
Yeah.
has made a huge difference.
I make a motion that we accept with a signed agreed order.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded to accept with the signed agreed order. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Next, we have an application for testing with hours in master barbering from Tennessee for Roberto David Muniz. Mr. Muniz? Come on up. Make sure that that's red, okay? You kind of give them a quick-
All right.
Muniz is appearing before the board to answer any questions that you might have. His request was last presented to the board at the December 2014 board meeting. At that time, the board denied their request for examination because we could not properly confirm that all the hours were in fact received. He was instructed to go back to school and complete close to 1,000 hours. Mr. Muniz also had prior situations with the board regarding Puerto Rico, a license from Puerto Rico and Connecticut that could not be confirmed as actual licenses. And then, but since then, he has gone back to B. Winfrey School of Hair Design and has completed the hours. They've been submitted to us by the school. He is ready to take his state board exams. He has made right a previous complaint as well that was pending, as well as the situation, and has waited pretty much a full year. So he's before you to answer any questions you may have, and he's requesting approval to take the exams.
Thank you for coming in this morning. Did complete the difference in the required hours.
Yes, sir.
Last, we denied his request to take exams.
We did because his hours had come through 2 separate withdrawal documents. One of them, we had hours in the office. The second one, we did not. We could never confirm with the school. With that added to the fraudulent licenses from Puerto Rico and Connecticut, the board voted at that time that we just couldn't proceed to allow him to test.
I would make a motion allowing him to test. He's completed the hours.
I second.
We have a motion that's been properly seconded to allow this application to test. Are there any other questions from the members? Are going to have any issues in the future with proper documents and proper stuff? Good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Next, we have a request for licensure for Pedro Linares with hours in El Salvador. Mr. Linares has presented translated documents showing a diploma in cosmetology with 770 hours. He drove to the board office last week to drop off the documents, was thinking that we had a meeting, so he was prepared. So I told him that these documents would be presented on his behalf to not make him drive a second time. He has, like many of our international applicants, the either transcript with a breakdown of hours, which he has provided, and a total of hours showing 1,770 hours received. And so, similar to international applicants, we've been generally recommending or putting them through to take the Tennessee examinations.
I'd make a motion to approve this gentleman to take the test.
I second.
We have a motion properly seconded to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, we have a request for a licensure from Ms. Yulia Howard, and this is for a cosmetology license. Sure to press the red, and they'll be able to hear.
I'm here to translate. She moved here 8 years ago, and she's having really bad problems with language. She went to school as a barber for 10 years. She moved here, and then she wanted all of the paperwork done, and the law required for her to go back to school to get more hours, and she did. And you guys approved her to take the exam, and she has 12 times take the practical exam, but so far in 3 years, yes, she's failing because of the language barrier. So we're asking if you can let her have the dictionary for practical test, or just for her to take the, what's the name of the other test? Practical only.
So if I could recap, Ms. Howard is coming from the Ukraine. She has 750 hours, and then she went back in 2012 to Lyle's School of Hair Design and completed the hours that she needed in order to complete her 1,500 hours. She's been testing with PSI. I personally went into their records between 2012 and 2015. I counted 15 fails. So she's definitely been trying to pass this exam. She has over 40 years experience in the industry back home. That is the information she's given us. So she's requesting, and we talked about this I think at the last meeting, some of our requests are a little bit different because of the language barriers. There's not an easy solution. She is requesting either the ability to use a translator or a dictionary. Of course, neither of those are approved methods right now with PSI per our contract. But that's not to say that we couldn't start talking about these things. It's just right now they're not a definite option. But she's encountering a major issue with the language.
This is on the written part, right?
She hasn't passed the written. That's where
That's
she's
it. That's
stuck.
where she's
So if
stuck
the
at
board
now.
would consider her taking the practical, generally speaking, our statistics are that the practical, because the industry is hands-on and more of a creative industry, most people do better with the practical.
What's your recommendation?
Yes,
no.
because I have a hard, we're going to have a hard time drawing the line if we do allow dictionaries. And that's not to say that in the near future we couldn't address it, but I think it would have to be addressed overall and make a decision, is that the path that we want to go, and revise the contract. Same thing with the translator. Right now, an individual is just not approved to go in. So what we've done with many applicants that have struggled with the language is done the practical. And I'm not sure if the practical would be easier, but that would definitely waive the difficulty that she's been attempting over and over.
She hasn't taken the practical.
No.
They're waiting for her to pass the written.
Right. It could not be skipped over without your approval.
Okay.
Well, if she takes the practical, will she have an interpreter in there to tell her
No.
what she's going to do next?
No, she would have to understand, now, and you being an instructor, the instructions for the practical are very specific. So I think she would have to be comfortable with knowing what's ahead and what's going to come so that she can understand those instructions. But they tend to be easier for, as we process a language, when someone speaks and gives you information, I think she would do pretty well with instructions as opposed to a written, because it's so much harder for the brain to process another language in the written form than it is spoken.
A lot of
Have
money
we
she
had
spent,
any
too.
cases where we've actually given the written exam orally?
We have not. PSI has to apply, meet ADA compliances, and we have some situations with dyslexia and stress disorders of sorts to where they've done certain modifications. I don't know if they've ever fully tested someone, but
In another language?
yeah, verbally.
I'd make
I
a
know we
motion for her
approved
to-
a master barber at the last meeting that he was, because of the computer situation, he was going to be tested verbally. But then again, they're just reading you the questions. I don't know that that completely takes away from the ambiguity of the questions.
How were you able to make your way through the time at Lyles with the language difficulties?
In school, she said it was easier for her when they were doing with instructors and they were teaching them how to pass the practical test. And she said that, it would be so much easier for her to understand when, she knows what she needs to do. And it's so much easier for her to do the practical than the written, because she doesn't understand a lot of the words.
I can speak, but I can't understand. Like, it's so many words, new words in a book. In cosmetology, yes, that's why.
I actually had a Ukrainian student several years ago, so I'm very familiar with your particular plight here. The language is very difficult.
Taking the written exam 15 times.
Hey, based on that,
That's
to me,
perseverance.
that's enough to make a motion and give her a shot at the practical, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
She spent a lot of money on that. That's $75
I
every
just slipped
time
my
you
wrist
go.
after about 6.
I wouldn't have kept on going.
Failed it several
15, my God.
Sure,
Give it a
she's got-
license.
there's only
Really?
7 versions
I make
of
a
the
motion
test,
to let her have a
I'm sure
license.
she's
Get it
covered all
all.
the questions.
Wow, that's dedicated. She's not giving up.
There is
Good for
an
her.
exam book that they can use to study by, and the test is taken from that exam book.
Okay, next we
Lovely,
have a
man.
request for licensure from Ms. Maria Ramos Rodriguez for a cosmetology license. Ms. Ramos has 1,500 hours in cosmetology from North Carolina. She is not licensed in North Carolina. Therefore, we cannot really approve her as a reciprocity applicant in Tennessee. She passed her practical exam in 2013, but has never passed the theory. North Carolina does them the other way around than we do. The practical is first. And so in order for her to take and receive a license in Tennessee, she would still be missing that theory piece. There is a note on your iPads on page 48. It is an email directly from the executive director of the North Carolina State Board, kind of explaining how the test goes, because since we do it the other way around, it just didn't make a lot of sense the first time I tried to review it. On the theory exam that she took after taking the practical, she obtained a 72%, which in Tennessee would be considered passing, but again, all of our exams are different, all right? So it would be their rules and laws. So Ms. Ramos is asking consideration of these exams for licensure in Tennessee, because she too would be worried that the language would be difficult. I just want to remind the board, at least right now, we have the Spanish exam available. So I would leave it up to you to review. Either way, she's never had a license, so she would have to either not take the theory because we're accepting the practical, or I would say that we put her through to take the theory, and at that point make the exception and count the practical from North Carolina, or the board could decide that she needs to take it here as well.
North Carolina have it available in Spanish?
That's a good question. I don't know in what language she took it. The practical is just easier if you're struggling with language, generally speaking, for an applicant to pass.
I noticed that they're military. Don't we have something, specific exemptions for the military?
We do, and the new rules that went into effect on December 1st, and at the end, we'll talk a little bit about them as well. If the board remembers, we added that military that many of the other regulatory agencies have added a while back. And it says that we need to issue licenses or permits to work very quickly, and then they still have to meet the requirements. We just get to issue this temporary license. So what it's going to do is we're going to be issuing letters with at least 60 days, because sometimes that's how long the reciprocal documents take to come in. And so that way, whether it is a military individual or their spouse, they'll be able to work on this letter until everything's there. But if then the documents come back and there's not enough hours or not an exam, then the board will be faced with having to hear what to do in those situations.
I don't recall having a case where we've had someone just wanting essentially to transfer hours from another state without a license.
Right.
before.
And I think sometimes that has to do with a military situation of moving quickly or just really finishing school and moving. In this particular case, she probably intended to get a license, but because she didn't pass the theory and this move came along, that's where she's at. So in the office, we do actually put people to test very often. We get their transcripts from Kentucky or North Carolina or Florida, wherever, and if they meet all of our requirements, we can put them through the test. If they don't, then we present the applications to you.
Be happy with her just taking the theory. I make a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion, it's been properly seconded to allow this applicant to take the theory exam. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next on your iPads, we have an application for Ms. Phueng Ngoc Duong. This is an application that was previously, a license that was previously revoked, both a manicurist and an esthetician. Ms. Dong is here to answer any questions the board has. Ms. Dong? You'll help them if they have questions, okay.
Thank you for coming in today. Can you tell the board some information about your previous difficulties?
And in this case, with the language issue, if I could recap.
Please.
And then she does have someone that's going to help her with the English. Ms. Dong's native language is Vietnamese. On your iPads, you have first on pages 53 and 54, her letters requesting the situation and your consideration. Then on page 55 is a breakdown of the complaint from 2014, and I'll briefly recap. On October of 2014 and prior to that, Ms. Dong was working in the industry. Her license was revoked on April 8th of 2014. She was the acting manager of a manicure and skincare shop, and she attempted to put money in the field inspector's pocket to avoid citations for unlicensed activity and sanitation. As a result of that inspection, she paid a civil penalty, and she agreed to have both licenses revoked. And so she is requesting consideration at this point for her hours and experience and answer any questions you may have. We're looking at two different licenses, the aesthetics and the manicuring. I'll give the board time to kind of look at the information. The manicure hours were obtained at Southern Institute, that is here in Tennessee. The aesthetics hours and license was obtained through reciprocity. Not that that makes a difference. She had both licenses legitimately in Tennessee.
What happened to this shop?
The shop itself, it's been so long, I believe also ended up being revoked and had the same, just like we do with most of all of our complaints, it's the shop and the manager that were cited. But the situation with the bribery, actually led to a long conversation about, different customs and traditions and what is viewed as very egregious here versus in other countries. And I think we spoke in length about that concept of paying somebody that to us is completely unacceptable, is a learning thing when you get here.
But that's acceptable where
Other
she's from.
countries,
How long have you lived in this country?
I live in 18 years.
18 years?
Yes.
Okay.
option I want to put before the board, because both of these exams do now exist in Vietnamese, would be to approve her to take the exams. I mean, you know, at this point, she has had to stop her livelihood, and that is what her 2 letters are about, is that she's just, you know, had to completely go work outside of her industry. And I'm not justifying that, but I'm saying if we want to consider something, it could be the exams in one or both of the fields. Yeah. Also do an agreed order of probation, you know, to make sure that we know where she is working and that there's an agreement that if there's any unlicensed activity or laws violated, we could not have to wait for that 3rd attempt.
So if her esthetician was through reciprocity, she's never taken an aesthetics exam here in
That's right.
Tennessee. But she did take the
The
manicuring.
manicure, she did. Her hours are here and her examen. Her manicure license is from August 2003. And the aesthetics from 2012. So she's obviously done the manicuring for a much longer period of time.
Asking for us to reinstate her license?
Yes, she's asking to reinstate both. When I reviewed the fact that she'd had the manicurist for so long and had the education in Tennessee, I viewed them a little bit differently, but that's not to say that they need to be treated differently. She's used to running a manicure and a skincare shop, which would mean she'd need both. So that's at your discretion.
You've lived in Tennessee for 18 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And where did you go to school to get your aesthetics training?
The first I go to school in, I forgot is the name of school, but I go in the school before I have the last baby.
In Tennessee?
Yes, ma'am.
And the aesthetics, the skin, where did you do
The
that?
skin is we take is in the Dallas.
Dallas. So you lived in Dallas in the
No,
past?
we live here. I live here, but I moved from Dallas in almost a year. So I tried to take the license over there, so I could move back here.
Okay.
The schools in Texas, as the board is aware, there's many schools we're still not accepting hours from. I had the conversation that, although I don't have the certificate that says 100% that that's the school she came from, but it is my understanding that in 2012, which is the years that were audited and had issues, one of the schools that was found to be with disciplinary issues in Texas is the school she ended up with her hours from. That's kind of why I think I separated the two. But again, she's, you know, was using both. in
Do you
Tennessee.
have other history? I mean, since I served on this board, you know, revoking someone's license is the end of the road, and it usually happens after multiple violations, not your first violation. Do you have any, I mean, this, obviously, what's in front of us is bad enough, but is there a history there as well of previous unlicensed behavior, or?
That was it on her, and I didn't dig far in the shop because the shop wasn't bringing anything up to our consideration today. But as far as her, this was directly against her as the manager for pursuing this avenue. So it was viewed to be that extreme that the manager's license was taken, yeah.
Is she the manager?
Was at that point when her licenses were revoked. She is not. She's not been working in the field, right? You've not been working since then, or have you?
I'm not working right now, but I'm not the manager. I just owner over there. Then they tell me, put an envelope on somebody. The one is coming and take them for. So I'm not the manager. I'm working.
Your recommendation, Roxana?
On the manicurist
Legally.
hours, I would be very comfortable recommending testing because the
Testing.
hours are from a school here, and we discussed that. So I think testing at least guarantees that the rules and laws have been reviewed, and we fortunately now can offer it in Vietnamese. She needs both, but the aesthetics hours, there's no way for me to properly vet them.
Why does she need, she wants both, right? But she don't.
Right, the shop that she's used to, so right, she would be able to own or manage a manicure shop if we went just with the manicure license. If the shop is also wanting to do skincare, which is where the waxing comes in, and most of our shops want that dual piece, she personally wouldn't be able to do the aesthetics if we deny that license.
So no waxing, but
And no
still
waxing.
nails.
But the manicuring, I think, is something we can verify hours on. She's been without it for about a year.
Agreed order, we could keep an eye on future
And we could do
activity.
both then, if the board agrees. The exam for aesthetics is also offered in Vietnamese.
Make a motion for her to take the exams in, both exams if that's what she wants. And then have an agreed order to monitor her after she passes her test.
For a
So-
2-year
But-
probationary
Or 2
period?
years, uh-huh.
Now you're wanting
She
to
could-
give her the opportunity to test for aesthetics as well? We can't verify aesthetic
Can't.
hours.
Now, similar to her, unfortunately, at this point, we have other licensees that probably went to those schools, and had licenses. She just happened through the revocation process to lose it. So,
The decision was made prior that those hours were acceptable and we
Correct.
went forward with it.
Correct.
Yeah,
So we don't
before
want to
she
really,
had it.
Well, before
we
we
shouldn't
knew,
backtrack on that decision.
before we knew
Correct.
that Texas had been issuing
right.
license without current hours.
Right, but we have many people that were presented here with that situation that wasn't held against them. So I think it's a slippery slope for us to,
Well, we did withhold license from Texas, didn't we?
Since then, since the investigation, anyone new that we know from these schools, we're actually we're denying the hours flat out. So it's not just the license, we're denying the hours. But I think what Mr. Gambusa is saying is, she was approved in 2012 before any of this with those hours. Right.
The other folks haven't had their licenses revoked
Right.
either.
Not yet. Now, that's,
right.
not to say that that couldn't happen. It's just a lengthy process of determining who went where, but
I mean, I will say that I am torn. I understand her need to earn a living. I certainly do. I also understand that this unlicensed, it's hard to say that it's frustrating to see these cases again and again and again and again.
So would you be more comfortable, Aim, with moving forward with the manicure piece?
I
Being
would.
that that's validated? I'm torn on the aesthetics piece because of the uncertainty. But I think as far as the,
How about if could we put a, in the probation or with the order that she couldn't manage a salon?
If she passes the aesthetics part, then she knows the laws, and so I would agree with Patricia on that.
If both parts are offered in Vietnamese, then that should be fairly easy for her, just to freshen up and retake both tests.
Were you not wanting her to manage a salon because it could potentially have manicuring and or because of this
Because of the-
previous history, you just don't want
Because
her
of
to
the
be a
previous
manager?
history and all the unlicensed activity, not just with the bribery part, mainly just the unlicensed activity. If that was part of her responsibility to.
So we can put, I mean, I'm gonna say anything, but like within reason, right? We can put just about anything in an agreed order because it's all voluntary. I struggle with how we would enforce that or be able to track that, but we could make that part of an agreed order if that was something you felt was important for her to not be doing for the next 2 years.
Well, if an inspector went in and she said she was the manager, then, and we had stated we didn't want her, then we would know. I feel the same way about that. She wants to go to work. We could give her this gift of, yes, you can take the manicure test for the Tennessee written and practical manicures test. She can go to work and make an income. And And then we ask that we keep an eye on her for 2 years with a probationary period, and that we request that she not be a manager of a shop because of the history.
Well, could that then possibly be a phase 2 after the 2 years to then apply for the other and eventually have the potential of earning the right back over time?
Definitely appear back before the board if she owns her own shop. Obviously, it's hard to own it and have to pay someone or hire somebody to manage if you're wanting to do all of it, but she could come back in a year or whatever the board saw fit to try to fix that piece.
Yeah, because I don't think it has to be all or nothing, right? Yeah. Although it's being requested, it doesn't mean we have to go down that path.
Back in a year for the aesthetics part.
The aesthetics part?
About manager.
Oh, the manager part, yeah.
Well, she would need the aesthetics part to manage a
To
place
manage
that
it, yeah.
did waxing.
I don't know, I feel with the aesthetics that if someone in her position were applying, so her licenses have been revoked. She does not have either license. So if someone was coming before us or applied to the office with hours from this school, we would not accept them, which is if this were someone else in another boat who did not have a license and was applying for a license.
Aesthetics license? Yeah.
So what you're
She's
saying,
not to start over with that.
She kind of lost the right based on the revocation. I agree with that.
So,
I mean, and I only say that because we don't revoke that many licenses. I mean, if you're revoked, it's serious.
so if I can kind of pull everything together here, what we're considering is to grant the manicurist license with the tests.
Both exams, yes.
Both exams and an agreed order. And the agreed order is also to include a provision against managing for a year. Is that kind of where we were? Okay. Is that a motion?
Yes.
We have
Make
a
a
motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Tifteller. Is there any other discussion, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you. Give me just a quick second.
But now she can go to work, right? You have everything you had before based on that behavior. It don't work that way. And the precedent that gets set, that, okay, that's a slap on the wrist, you pay a fine, and let's go do it again.
Good luck to you.
Look, okay.
Pretty common over there, though.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's common in Jersey.
Yeah. You made a lot of money like that, didn't you, Frank?
I wonder if we can take a quick 5-minute break, if that would be okay, and then we will get back. We're on page 60. We might skip to do a presentation. So we'll get back on the record, and it is 10 minutes to 11. If we could start right at 11. And we are not going to need to break, I don't think, for lunch, because we don't have that much after this. So that's the good news. Okay, we're
back in session.
Thank you. If I could, we are going to do a brief skip to the end of our iPads. We have here, we're very blessed to have Assistant Commissioner Brian McCormack here with us. And the portion of the iPads presentation that he is going to be happy to answer questions and go over with you start on your on page 94. This is the financial breakdown for the 2014-2015 fiscal period. And Brian, Mr. McCormack, I will hand that over to you.
Thank you, Roxana, and good morning, board.
Morning.
Glad to see you. Y'all got a full slate here.
We do.
It's good to see everybody, and so we wanted to talk about the fiscal year close from FY 14-15, and you'll have the information. So it's not my style to dive down in the weeds here. So I'll kind of give you an overview, and then if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those for you. does everybody have the document in front of them? And this document is the combined. This is the combined budget of the programs. So as you can see, this year payroll expenditures were at $871,806. And then in addition to that, with the other expenditures, you can kind of look through there that we had $321,559. That puts you at $1,193,366 for expenditures. In terms of cost backs, you can see the total cost backs were around we're at $1,184,214. That puts you at a total expenditure of $2,377,580. Below that, you had licensing revenue that came in at $2,498,896. You had $360,000 in case and complaint revenue, and then your portion of the state regulatory fee was $376,820, which leaves you with a net revenue of $2,135, and that left you with a fiscal year balance of $104,555, which will take you from the adding to the prior year fiscal reserve of $289,944. That'll put you at a total reserve balance of $394,499. So that's kind of your current position. You did add to the reserve this year, and as you can see, we are running in a pretty. I know you all are taking a look at the fees. You are running in a pretty tight margin in terms of where you are, but you are in the black this year and moving and adding to the reserve balance. So I'll be glad to answer any questions if you all have any.
I know since the boards have combined, this probably benefits the barber board to be combined, but how does it impact the cosmetology board?
On your iPads, the last item, page 97 has the ending balance that the barber board carried over when the merger took place. So in effect, that 222 negative, if you will, is lumped into what we have. So that final figure that Brian mentioned, the 394, includes having absorbed that.
Already.
Already, yes. So we are completely
Yeah.
done
cleared that
with
since
separate
last year.
sets of books.
This is where you are today. You have the balance I talked about is where you are. The combined boards are today at this point, or we're at the close of FY 14-15.
How
It was
does
a
that
good
compare?
move.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's good.
How does that compare to other boards like in the commerce and insurance?
We have kind of the spectrum. It's your reserve as a percentage of your percentage of expenditure is a little bit on the lower side. You're running pretty tightly, like I said, in terms of where you are. So it's good that you do have a reserve, but we really like to see this is on the lower side of reserves, I think, in terms of what we would hope to see from.
Or raises out of the question, is what he's saying.
Well, it looks like too, if you look at the very last page, 98, that the cosmetology board was running pretty significant reserve at a couple years ago. But since then, obviously, with absorbing some of the barber losses, that has been reduced.
And it's not just the barber. We had some incurred additional expenses. We do inspections a little bit differently, and so those have gone up a little bit, and that's a good thing. Complaints, we open, as you all know, complaints in a different way, and we handle those. Now, they come in with civil penalties sometimes, but they include additional bodies. And so I think business processes to some extent have improved, and therefore there's a fee behind some of that. And a lot of boards have higher fees than ours as well.
Yeah.
That you all are, and that your fees are some of the lowest in the division.
What is really a good reserve to have for a board our size? $500,000, more or less?
Would it be based more on percentage than dollar amount?
One of the things we're doing is reviewing. We're reviewing kind of what we think is the appropriate level. But I mean, I think we wouldn't be upset with 2 years operating expenses. I mean, I think that's that's typically where we look at. I know it's a pretty sizable amount of money for your all's program. So, I guess that's what I'd. But we're kind of thinking through how to effectively kind of manage reserves and what level makes sense. As you know, the situations in which you can use the reserve is pretty limited. So it's typically only, there are some exceptions to this, and I'm not going to dive into all the nuance, but typically really the only time you can pull from the reserves are when you've gone in the red in terms of that in that fiscal year. So that's typically the only time you can draw from the reserves.
Raising the fees, we should see a little bit more though, right?
I would expect that you will, yes.
Good.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, and I'm only asking just because I'm curious. Do you know how much it cost us to change the logo on everything that we had to change?
Talking about, well, we've
Freestar.
We've been phasing that. The goal is to phase that in. So it should, I mean, I can't tell you the specific amount of cost, but the goal is that we would continue to use the resources that we have until those resources are, so if we're talking about paper that's already been printed, the goal is that we'll continue to use.
So they just phase it in?
Yeah, it would be, we want to make sure that we've used the resources that we currently have.
That has to do with the whole rulemaking process, so I don't foresee before the year's over, easily, don't you think? By the time they go through all the channels, if we're lucky, 9 months.
We're lucky 9 months from now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, after the complaint committee's recommendations this morning on fines, I think we'll be able to ramp that profit up pretty quick.
Just jack it up there.
The Frank clause.
Frank. New Jersey.
No, but we can't overlook the fact that we absorbed that barber balance at
Yeah.
222,000. That's gone. I mean, that's a pretty significant chunk of money. So, I mean, that definitely is a bright spot.
Questions? No?
Well, thank y'all. I mean, you're all doing a fantastic job. And any chance I get to compliment Roxana, you all have a fantastic director. She has done an incredible job managing the program since she's been here, and I think you're going to continue to see improvements as we move forward in terms of what she's doing and the changes we're making here. And I'll just also say. Her staff is doing a great job. I mean, they are one of the smaller staffs that we have, and they have a significant amount. They have the most licensees, and they do an incredible amount of work. And so I think I'm grateful for them, and I most certainly think you should be too. So
You don't want to brag
We
too
are.
much about her
Thank
because
you.
somebody else will steal
Somebody
it.
will take our way. Where's that
She's okay.
contract?
We'll keep her.
And I will brag on our team. We, the Wellness Committee, that's a great new committee that we have here in Commerce and Insurance. They did a competition for Christmas decorations. So if you all, before
we
you
got to
leave,
go up
want to
there.
head up to the 4th floor,
Ooh.
our
Yeah.
team has done Candyland Christmas.
Oh, how
And,
cute.
yeah, we have an awesome team.
that definitely
We're
helped me
easy,
when
man.
it visits.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you all.
How nice.
Thanks, Brian.
feel a little
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Really appreciate it. Okay, we are going to head back, and we are toward our miscellaneous applications. Let me find the page for us. And Ms. Ferticia Clayton is the first one we're going to be looking at here.
Page 60.
60, perfect, thank you. So this is a request for waiver of Rule 0440-1-.10, requiring the applicant to obtain their license within 6 months after passing the examination. Ms. Ferticia Clayton passed her cosmetology practical exam in April of 2015. Under the cosmetology statute, the applicant must reapply for examination within 6 months they have not obtain their license, or they can show good cause. Ms. Clayton has missed the 6 months by 2 months from being timely, and most of this, or in great part, is due to that verification eligibility form. The board had given the director authority to extend this, but only for 1 month, so she's just passed it. She's requesting approval of this license as opposed to having to retest.
Have everything in now?
She does. She does. The statute would automatically make her retest. This form is now, I believe most schools have come to terms, they've gone on the website, or we've handed it to them so that they can hand it to the students. PSI hands it out, but unfortunately, I think what happens is they're finished, they're ready to work, and they just head out the door and forget that we still need the application and this page added to it, so.
Is it about citizenship?
Yes, it's that question, are you a U.S. citizen or a foreign alien? Yeah.
So the reason that she missed the second, I mean, we extended it, right, for 1 month?
Right, and they don't know that. They really should know what the school should be teaching, which is you've got 6 months to get your license. When you pass the practical, hurry up and get it. I believe in her case, you know, she just had things come up. She missed the email. We do an email as well as a letter. Our licensees are tough. Our shops are even harder, other than their businesses, so they want to be open. So they don't wait the 6 months, but they'll forget to include that form.
Make a motion to grant her the ability to complete her license?
Correct, for us to issue it as opposed to her having a test.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, we have a request from instructor Devonja Harris for an extension of the required continuing education hours. She became an instructor in 2014 and should have attended the continuing education seminar by March 31st of 2016, but there are no sessions available until April. Pursuant to code annotated 62-3-124B, a master barber instructor may request a timely waiver with good cause. He is not been able to, he would be able to renew his license, but wait through a portion of 2016 to do his continuing education, so he could not teach until he completes that continuing education. He's requesting the board grant that extension.
It's like a month extension, right?
If he's able to attend that April,
Oh,
you know, it's just one of those things, sometimes it's very costly for them to attend one that's far away and have to stay out of town and so forth.
Well, within a few months, at least, he can get it.
After the April, we have through the summer, they're almost back to back. So I don't foresee, the board can extend it through all of 2016, or if the board sees fit, ask that they attend the next session. That's up to you. The barber code does not say that they are automatically can be granted that one time. It just says for good cause. Which,
Did not give them all just the one like we've been doing with cosmetology.
that's what I've
Can we
tried
do
to
that?
consistently present, but the
Yeah.
language isn't identical is what I wanted
Right.
to mention.
So can we grant him like a one-time extension here? And tell him that's the
Yeah,
only
this would
time he
be,
gets
he's never had
extended?
the license before
Yeah.
now, correct?
As far as 1 month versus through the year end, what it really means is since those are given in different places, he might have to travel a great distance.
Right, and incur the expense. As long as they, what we do if they say, well, you know, we need it, I need it for the whole year, I will always explain that it's up to the board to grant it limited or for the full year. They can't teach until then, and I believe in this situation, he's really not teaching. Sometimes that's why they overlook going to the continuing education, because they're not using that piece.
Motion to extend, give him the one-time extension.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to grant a one-time extension. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Request from instructor Yolandi Stevens for an extension of the required continuing education. She became an instructor in 2014 and should have attended the continuing seminar by March 30th of 2015, and this is because her previous license is on this 2-year cycle. So pursuant to 62-4-114A2, an instructor may request a one-time waiver. She submitted a letter explaining the reason that she missed the session. She, in her case, is also not teaching currently and is requesting the one-time exception.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, we have a request from instructor For Nicole Holmes for an extension of required continuing education hours. She became an instructor also in 2014 and should have attended the session by February 2016. Pursuant to 62-4-114A2, an instructor may request this waiver one time. She submitted a letter explaining the reasons for missing the session and that none are given prior to April 2016. Is requesting this one-time exception.
Motion to accept her one-time exception.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And we will refer back now to the Reciprocity Committee meeting for an update on everything we presented, anything the board has questions about or wants to discuss. We started the meeting promptly at about 8:55 and ended at 9:30. Mr. Gilhan, I'll turn it over to you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Was
Nine,
not
that's
as good
right.
this one.
I just stared right at
Go
it.
right ahead.
Ms. Coppinger, it's all yours.
No problem. It was very painless. We had 12 cases presented before us. We granted 5 reciprocity. 6, we voted that they take both Tennessee exams, and 1, we voted that they just take the theory portion of the exam only. And that was it. Do I hear a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
How dare they, right? How dare they?
Thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work with all of that.
And I will, the next would be an update on the legal complaints, and I'm going to turn it over to Laura, because there's one complaint in particular that we will be discussing. If I could point out, I emailed the wrong version. We added as many cases as we could throughout, and I had them named probably the same thing. So you've got a total of 100 complaints that Laura diligently worked on, adding anywhere from close to 20, I think, with the paralegals. So if you will look at the paper version as you're referring to numbers, any questions you may have, that's how the complaint committee went this morning, and we were able to just make minor changes, I think. So I'll turn it over to Laura.
Hello. For those of you that weren't in the committee meeting this morning, the version that you have in front of you on paper, as opposed to the one that you may have had a chance to read ahead of time, has new cases on it, and those were all cases that were referred sort of later on in the process. They had gotten agreed citations, not paid them, and now they're being referred to you. Those cases are not particularly difficult, which is why they're sort of selected for an agreed citation anyway, but those are all going to be at the end, probably the last 10 or so of the cosmetology complaints and the first few of the new barber complaints. So after we discuss a specific case, if anybody wants to take time to read those through, we can certainly make time for that. But first, I would like to discuss case 41 on your paper. Case 41 is against the school. And we had some discussions about it this morning, but it's just kind of new and kind of strange, so it seemed like the type of case where we should have board discussion before we came up with a decision. I didn't even make a full recommendation. So this is a situation where a student filed a consumer complaint saying that she had started attending a cosmetology school and was receiving federal aid. She had only completed 10th grade, which was okay for her to enroll, but you cannot get federal aid without high school diploma or GED. She says that the school filled out all of her FAFSA forms for her and then kind of just showed her where to sign. She says she told them that she had only completed 10th grade, asked if she should defer going to cosmetology school until she could get a GED, and was assured over and over again that it would not be a problem. So at a certain point, the federal aid agency determined that she actually didn't have a high school diploma, so she's now on the hook for all of the federal aid that that she had received. And I believe she was paying it back, a very low monthly payment, and then she skipped a couple of months. And I guess at that point, the federal aid agency contacted the school, and then she has dropped out. I think it ended pretty badly when all this happened between her and the school, and is working at another place. And someone from the school showed up where she works trying to talk to her about the money that she owed, which is what prompted her to file this complaint. The school, in response to all these allegations, sent me all the documents. They completely deny that any conversation ever took place. They say she filled out all her FAFSA forms without their help, that she told them that she had graduated high school, and that she misrepresented herself. Then they gave me all the documents they obtained from her before she started school, including her high school certificate. And their response for that is that the high school certificate is misleading and looks like a high school diploma. What I told the complaint committee this morning is that I guess if you glanced at it, having not a lot of experience, you would think it looked like a high school diploma. But if you spent even a minute just reading it, it very clearly says that it's for partial completion of high school, is not a high school diploma, and is just a certificate. So I have a very hard time believing that if that's really a document they had in their possession prior to her starting school, that they really didn't know that she had not completed high school. So there isn't anything the board can do about federal aid money and loans and who owes who and all of that stuff, but I find the school's participation in all of this troubling enough that I think it's possible unprofessional conduct, but I wanted a chance especially to allow Mr. Gillahan and Ms. Richmond to talk about their experience, how some of that plays out in the school setting, and talk about whether the board wants to have any sort of discipline for this behavior, or I just kind of want to.
Let me ask a question. Is it possible for them to fill out the FAFSA form without her input? Because there's a lot of questions on there about income and things, and I mean, how do they do that?
FAFSA is normally filled out online.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is very possible that someone from the school was sitting beside of them, helping them go through the system, because it's fairly complicated for someone who's not experienced with that. And even if you are, it's complicated. The information generally is going to come directly from the student and their parents. There's tax documents that have to be obtained.
It's a security
tax
PIN
statements.
number for privacy
There-
protection.
Exactly. There's all the parties involved have a federal PIN number that allows them to have access to it. So is it possible that the school helped them go through there and fill it out? Yes. Even if it's a paper version, which is just kind of like the dark ages now. The school
everything.
could assist with that as well. Schools who go through the accreditation process, which allows them to accept these benefits, are very seriously educated on the point that you do not fill these documents out yourself. It is something that you, the student or the parent, they fill it out with your assistance. So on the financial aid side of it, you're exactly right. I don't think there's anything the board can do about that, but there are oversight groups. The first thing that the student could do is, of course, file a complaint with now THEC. They can file a complaint with the accrediting agency, which would be NACIS or COE or several others. And then also they can file a complaint with the Department of Ed. If there was some fraudulent activity going on there, trust me, the Department of Ed and the Inspector General are going to get to the bottom of that. And fortunately, it's going to end up landing on the student for a while. Ultimately, the school would have to make restitution depending on certain circumstances. If they collected money in any fraudulent way, the school's going to end up being on the hook for that, and would probably have some issues with their accreditation and ability to accept. For the high school diploma, and I did hear some of the meeting this morning, there's a requirement on the federal side of all this that someone in the school actually verify the high school diploma. We had situations several years ago, and in fact, I guess still goes on, where there are diploma mills. And people are just walking in with any kind of paper they've printed off the internet and saying this is a high school diploma from a private school. So if it's a public school, obviously there's going to be some state documentation to go along with that. But private school, particularly if it's a homeschool situation or things like that, someone in the actual school is required to verify that and to sign off on it. That all speaks to the financial aid portion, though. I think Patricia would probably agree with me on this. A lot of time you have disgruntled students who like to make complaints, and some of them are founded, some of them are not founded, and so forth. So when I read this case, it really bothered me because I agree there's some kind of professional misconduct going on here that I believe, my own personal opinion. Can mistakes happen? Yes. Can perceptions be off based on you helped me fill this out or I filled it out myself? That's a little bit kind of a gray thing there.
It's kind of like a guidance counselor. You know, when you go in and you talk to your guidance counselor and they help you get your forms in order. And that's what a school do. It assists the students. I have a financial aid guy, and that's all he does. He helps them with their student aid forms. He sets up the computer. He lets them type everything out. And they'll say what goes here, and he'll say, let me look at the taxes. It's all from your year before taxes, and it just tells you which line to go for. But, you know, as far as we help them and explain to them what they're asking for, but at the end, they're on the little laptop, and they're filling it out themselves. But I know in high school, when my son graduated, the guidance counselor helped him fill his out at school, you know. So
But if you read this statement that this student made that says the school filled out all of her forms and asked her to sign when they were finished, that
She did,
really can't.
sorry, I should have made it more clear. She did say and to electronically sign when they were finished. So they did do it on the computer.
right, but
But
she's
she's
saying
saying
that
that
they
they
did
filled
it
it out.
without any of her input.
Well,
Is what
she
she's saying.
had to give him something.
Well, she didn't say without any of her input. Maybe
She
I
had to
didn't
have.
explain it properly in this paragraph. Her complaint to me was that she had wanted to go to cosmetology school. I guess this is the school in her neighborhood. She knows people that have gone there. She went and talked to them and said, I really want to go here, but I never finished high school. Do I need to get a GED? And they said no. And they said they could help her with the forms. And all of that, like you said, sounds normal. I always had guidance counselors help me as well. But the way she made it sound, it's as if she showed up with the papers and they kind of just filled it out for her and then said, okay, sign here, get your pen, you're fine, move on. And she said she even said, should I defer and wait and go get my GED? And they told her, no, you'll be fine. You can get aid. But that's just
We're still
her
getting aid?
statement.
If she were
What?
still getting aid and she were still enrolled, this would never have come up.
No, she would still.
I clearly think that you've got two people who are in the wrong, the school and the student.
If
either of them are telling the truth,
Oh.
totally, if she's telling the truth totally, I don't think she's in the wrong. I think she showed up at the school. If what she's saying is true, I think she would have showed up at the school, told them her whole situation, and they really misguided her and really put her in an odd spot. And that being said, if the school is telling the truth and she lied to them about it, she's in the wrong. But they also have a certificate that says she didn't pass high school that's been in their possession by their own admission when they were helping her fill out the FAFSA documents that told them she didn't complete
Laura,
high
is
school.
this a teenager?
Is she a teenager?
Yeah.
She has to be
She's-
at least 16 to have started.
Well, has 10th grade education. Let's say she's
Education, but she did not go straight from 10th grade to this. There's 10th grade, years have gone by. I believe she has a child. I know her mother didn't help her with these. One of her
I know
complaints
that
is that they're
as a
calling.
community volunteer, we would go to the library, we would sit with East High School students and sit and help them and their mothers with their FAFSA information. Be really hard for the school to garner that information, especially on the proof of work and income of the parents and all of that. I mean, that's a lot of information.
And grant you that if
And it costs like, what, is it $25 or $35? I can't remember. They've got to put that in there
it's free to fill out FAFSA.
yeah. Maybe we were doing aid at that
Maybe you were
day.
doing aid.
aid for the 35.
Now, if
She received aid.
the school got the aid, okay?
She's having
more
to pay
than
it
likely-
back.
So the
More-
paperwork went through, I mean, when is it granted?
Well, when the student's first day starts, then you put that into your system. We go through a third-party servicer. Most people use that. That way it's a backup for the school. But once they get all their paperwork in, then the money drops. Part of it, not all at once. You get a draw the first 400 hours or something like that, and then you get another draw. And it comes in increments. But the thing is, if the school got it, the school has to pay it back to the federal aid.
Ultimately, if the school made the mistake, the school's going to be responsible
Yeah, it
financially for that.
goes back.
That's going to be that way.
Her
It has
payment
to
is
go
probably
back.
to the school.
Her payment is probably, if she had signed up and she was there over 20%, she owes this amount. And if it wasn't as much as she got from her aid, there was a balance, and that's what she owes, probably, more than likely. You understand what I'm saying?
Laura,
That's more
there's a
like what it's
component to
probably
this
small.
too, that it just sticks in my mind, because any school, and I know we've had some schools that have issues, particularly recently, that we've been dealing with, but any school who has gone through the process to be able to offer financial aid to students in that federal form, they understand they've got a huge risk, and they're not going to want to easily jeopardize that funding stream on simple mistakes. I'm not saying that mistakes weren't made and whatnot. I don't know enough facts on that. But could there be fraud in the system? You've got someone in the office that's just doing things? Of course.
Could it have been a simple overlook? Yes, it could have been. Because sometimes you get bombarded, and if you're not a big school, a lot is on you and a lot is on your financial aid. There's, and usually we try to back each other up because we are a small school.
And there are redundant systems.
Yeah.
She mentioned third-party processor. Part of their job is to assist in making sure those records line up. Ultimately, it is always the school's responsibility.
Is this school still owned by the same owner, or has it had a change of ownership recently?
I don't believe they've had a recent change in ownership. And you see that
But I
they
heard
actually
that-
have very small history compared to most of the schools you see on the legal report.
Because I've gotten a few phone calls. I briefly listen to them until I refer them, but this seems to be a complaint, just of the students. I've heard it several times before. So I don't know.
That complaint?
Similar. So I'm not, I refer them to your office.
Think that
I do think that students, and it may be
Yeah.
along the lines of what you're getting, students will call and say they fill it out for me. They actually are, not comfortable answering and filling in, so they should be sitting right there. So I have heard them too, probably never to this magnitude and never where the discrepancy is. I didn't even finish high school and they told me that was okay.
Probably
But yes,
just-
many students do say, I'll sit right here, you fill it out for me.
Yeah, because they're more comfortable
Yeah.
with it.
I have a question. So your paragraph says that she's been paying back the aid to the federal government.
I misunderstood that.
Okay.
I was not sure how that system
Okay.
worked, but I think the school paid it back and then she's been paying back the school.
Gotcha.
I bet I think it's probably just a portion of what her Pell didn't pay that she would have owed the school.
There may
Right,
have been a
she-
prorated rate.
It's
then.
a prorated
She's paying
rate.
back to the school whatever aid the federal government initially lended for her to attend this school. And I'll tell you, when I first read it, I really did have that same feeling where I'm like, students get angry, things happen, whatever, until their response, which included the certificate for high school partial completion, and they told me it was misleading, and that's when I said, I don't believe that. This form doesn't look misleading to me at all.
What are we looking for here? Are we looking to decide to discipline the school or
Yeah,
to sanction the school in some way?
It was so out of left field for me, and maybe that's because I'm still relatively new, but when I was sitting there thinking about a recommendation, I just had nothing to go off of, so I wanted to give you guys a chance to kind of give your experience, because I've learned a lot just listening to you talk about how the money changes hands, and also decide if this is something you guys even think we should be disciplining, or if this is just best left.
I would like to have more on this situation because I would like to see both of them appear before us and explain or something, you know, or one of them. I mean, because it can go really it can go really deep. I mean, so you really don't know who to believe, you know. It's a he said, she said.
I do have a suggestion. Do we have any idea when the last time the school was inspected?
Annually, all of our cosmetology schools
just
are,
in the
yeah,
last annual
like
inspection?
last summer, yeah.
So, whenever they're up, or whenever they're next scheduled for their upcoming inspection for this year, for the upcoming year, added all these ideas for best practices for schools and the forms for the inspectors to check their files and records a little better. When we take a look at those files and records, we may see some evidence of other high school diplomas or things that might not be.
Well, I tell you,
kosher.
we asked for everything coming certified from their high school, their transcripts, not diplomas. Get their transcripts and get it certified. That may put an end to all of that.
So I have a question. Does NACAS or whoever has accredited them, did they do inspections of some sort?
Yeah, they
So
do.
they'll pick up on this, right?
And this school has not been in any trouble much at all. Has this school had a lot of complaints on it? Nothing.
All the complaints are right there in front of you. They've had
That's
two,
it. That's
both
it.
dismissed.
And how long, since 94? That's pretty good.
94 is when the old data merged to the new one, so it is possible that they're even longer, yes.
That's yeah, that's a big difference there.
If a school was innocently trying to enroll a student and overlooked this and just simply really just didn't look at it, Laura, that's probably one scenario. And the other scenario is they didn't care enough to investigate it and they just wanted to propagate the next. What point is there misconduct?
Yeah, I think either way, it's their
I think it's an
responsibility.
analysis of what harm done. I mean, what,
Let's see what the balance is. I mean, and she's making it sound like she's got to pay back everything, and most likely she doesn't.
to a
She
teenager,
probably-
even
I don't know if it's a teenager.
$100 is a lot
Yeah.
of money.
That's scary, it's a
But
lot.
it's just, you know, it depends on what the prorated thing is. I mean, like, if she got full pay and it paid all but $1,000.
Write the school a letter of warning.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
And then could we provide the student the information on how to file a complaint? If she would like to pursue it further with the federal aid groups.
Bye-bye.
She shouldn't have to pay
Feel
back.
free to go pursue that.
I feel like I'm on jury duty.
I think she's,
I mean,
I think the
I
school is
think I
probably
should
wanting
really be
what
deciding
she owes
this.
the school,
He said,
not what
she
she owes
said
federal
thing.
aid. That's probably what I'm thinking. That's what I'm reading it.
Amy, I think that's a wonderful
I would agree with
solution.
Amy, just, you know.
Give her a letter of warning.
Send the school a letter of
Yeah,
warning. to
based
make
on what
them
we
aware
know
of
and
this.
don't know.
Yeah.
We
But we've
just want
discussed
to
it
warn
at
the
least.
school,
Yeah.
make sure this doesn't happen. If it did, don't ever let it happen.
Letter of warning, issue a letter of warning to the school, provide student with information on opening complaints with
It's the Higher Education Commission.
THEC.
Right there.
They're accrediting agency, and I don't know which one they use, probably
Fine.
NACAS or C.
And then
And
you
then,
mentioned the next inspection, but we can always send an inspector out there just
Ahead of time.
midway. There's
Yeah.
nothing that says we can't inspect them more
Yeah.
than once a year.
Sure.
Okay.
Specifically to review files.
And they could also notify the Department of Education, and that's the final branch of the financial aid.
I think we should request they be inspected soon with files, just for the files.
Right. So, okay. Thank you. So, letter of warning, provide student with information, and a follow-up inspection to review files. I made a few changes that were just typographical. Thank you to Ms. McAllister, who always catches them.
Good at that.
And then the board also raised the penalty, I believe, on case, let me find it. 57 and 58, we raised the penalty from $12.50 a complaint, or $12.50 to each respondent to $2,000 to each respondent. But other than that, I think that was, oh, there's the wasp again.
84 was circled.
Coming after you, Amy.
82.
What is it?
It's a B.
It's a large B. Sorry.
Did you have a question about 84?
82 is circled on my page. Is it something, I haven't looked at it, but.
Oh, case 82, I'm sorry, I had bookmarked that one earlier. Let me reread that.
Oh, yeah, 82, he had a question about that one.
Well, it was just marked
Oh,
on my
okay.
page. I thought maybe somebody was.
Oh, I've just read your notes there, that's fine.
Moving on. Carry on.
Number 94, I'm not quite sure I understood what that one was. A state-funded agency's placing people in a shop.
Cosmetologist.
Oh,
Have a-
yeah. It's a
barbershop
staffing
license.
agency through the state, placed a cosmetologist in a barber shop. So an inspector went out there, saw that they had employed a cosmetologist, and the barber shop said that when they first placed her there, he called the staffing agency and they said, "Oh no, it's fine." So then we actually reached out to the staffing agency, who confirmed that that was their belief. They didn't understand that that required a separate shop license. So he has filed a cosmetology shop application so that he can continue to employ this woman.
Okay.
It seems like everybody was trying to do the right thing, which is why I thought we should close and flag.
Are there any other questions? Thank you for all your hard work. Do we need a motion?
We need a motion to adopt the legal report.
Make a motion to accept the legal.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Frank over here. He didn't say much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Our next order of legal business is the rules. So after the last meeting, I made all the edits that we discussed, and Roxana emailed those back out to you. I have paper copies if any of you wanted a chance to look over them, but you all received it. And plus, I just didn't want to put extra paper on your desk for stuff I felt like you have been reading month after month. So last month, we adopted the reg flex and the economic impact statements that I put out, and then what I need today is for us to adopt the language as it is in the rules, and then I need the board to vote to give me the authority to set a rulemaking hearing date. The rulemaking hearing date takes place 52 days after I can file it. Before I can file it, the board has to adopt the language. I have many people that have to approve it. My supervisor, like all the way up, since we're touching the fees, all the way up through Commissioner McPeaks has to approve this language. The AG's office has to approve it. Then I can file for a hearing date. Then we have to wait 52 days. The rulemaking hearing that you guys had in January of this year was slightly atypical, and that usually not as much revision is done at a rulemaking hearing. It's generally a time just to hear comments from the public, and then if your reaction to those comments, you want to make edits either that day or at a future meeting, you can do that. So hopefully we've spent enough time that everyone's pretty comfortable with the language, but if you want copies or you have any questions, we can take that time now.
So much better than we did last year, this time?
Yes.
Okay.
I make a motion to adapt the language.
Second.
with authority.
She's quick now, isn't she?
She ready, isn't she?
We woke up the sleeping giant on this
Here
side.
she ready.
So let me say exactly what we're doing, just so
Please.
it's like completely on the record. Someone has made a motion to adopt the language for all three of the rulemaking filings I've presented you, with the fees, the schools, and the shops. Is that the motion?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And there
Yes.
was a second?
Yeah.
Second.
Did I miss that?
Seconded by-
Okay. Please.
They're fighting over who's second.
Is there any other discussion on these? Do we want to open them up and go through them again?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
That's the quietest I've seen
Opposed
this
say
bunch.
no. That's fine. We didn't need a roll call on that.
Yes, we do, so.
Okay.
If you bear with me, we'll do roll here. Okay, we will start with Ms. Kelly Barger. Ms. Anita Charlton is not present today. Ms. Nina Coppinger,
Yes.
Mr. Bobby Finger,
Yes.
Mr. Frank Gambusa,
Yes.
Chair Ron Gillihan,
Yes.
Ms. Brenda Graham. Yes. Ms. Wybeck Granger also is not here today. Ms. Patricia Richmond,
Yes.
Ms. Judy McAllister,
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield,
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansky,
Yes.
Ms. Diane Tiefenteller.
Yes.
All those present today are accounted for and voted yes. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we grant Laura the permission to set the rulemaking hearing date. Is that what I need to do?
Yep.
Second.
Usually those are set on the, usually those are set on the same day as a board meeting. But I will reach out to you guys so that you have plenty of time to know what day that's gonna be, so that you can prepare to be here a little bit longer.
We prepare to bring in catering as well.
We can. Yes. We can do that.
We know we got a few
serious.
100,000 as a
I'll wear my
balance.
comfy pants.
It's kind of
That's right.
Stay tuned. To the next one.
Yeah, jogging pants.
But we'll be so
Been
experienced.
told it was not the typical rulemaking hearing,
I think
so
that's on record.
I want to believe that.
Wow. That was
A
wild.
good one.
So we do have a motion. We need a second.
Second.
Okay. And this is for you to say.
Roll call.
No, roll call. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Hey, we will get back on track and.
Aren't you proud of us? We are
You're
on it.
I think everybody's done
Still
shopping.
laughing and smiling.
And of course, one of the rules that carries this does carry the fees that I think we've all, I even had Brian McCormick really look at it carefully. One more time. All right, we are on page 77 on the iPads, and this is the motion we need for the consent orders and agreed citations to be accepted during the month of October. We took in $28,525.94. We have a payment plan of one that's an odd amount, so that's the reason it is odd, but we need a motion to accept this.
Make a motion to accept the fees.
Second.
We have motions properly seconded to accept the consent orders. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
In this particular month for the month of, and I'm sorry, that was money accepted in the month of November. During the month of November, we had no letters of warning. Sometimes there's anywhere from 3 to 7 cases. This particular month, we did not have any. So on your iPads, we are going to be looking for a quick moment here at students that are coming from Pyramid Beauty School. This is a school that signed a consent order, and at the previous board meeting on November the 2nd, the board allowed me to release those transfer hours to students that could sign an affidavit and provide their hours. I've run into a situation where the students listed below have hours that vary in number from the last hourly report submitted by Pyramid, so I need the board's decision or guidance on how to handle these. And these are hours that would be, you know, just not identical, or the situation that the student presented is something that I thought the board needed to discuss and guide us. So the first individual on your iPads is Tommy Tucker. There's a variance of over 1,400 hours. I am still waiting on this particular individual for a letter or email explaining the huge discrepancy. Therefore, I'm not comfortable releasing these hours. On your iPads is the only date in July. These are hours from June, all of the month of June 2013, where the only number reflected is the 35.47 hours, and his name never appears again on a report. So the only thing that I can ask students at that point is if they've got copies of receipts, homework, just pretty much anything. And so he in this case is probably, unless the board says yes, release them, going to be stuck until February to see what he turns in, because it's just basically missing everything. And
I think he's stuck until he has documents to prove it.
Okay, so that is what I'm doing with Mr. Tucker, and that's kind of where I was heading. The next
Question,
student.
is this school closed now?
Today, yes. Yes, they are closed. They are closed.
Before the board?
The complaints were reviewed, the board recommended revocation, and right now both the Barber and Cosmo license is revoked. So we're fixing things here for the students. Gabriel Motley, his affidavit has a discrepancy of 330 hours. Again, I'm waiting on documents. In his case, he stated he had 558. The monthly hours report is on your page 86, and he is toward the middle there with 225. That's the last time his name appears on the report. And so if the board agrees on him as well, he's unfortunately has to wait. It's just too much of a discrepancy. Next is Mr. Ronald Thomas. The variance with him is 246 hours. We are still waiting also. Mr. Thomas is a vet, so I know that the Veterans Administration is working with him to go ahead and continue schooling. And at this point, if he does continue, it would be without a transfer release. I'm needing something in writing from him in order to be comfortable with those hours. And he's also on that same hourly report, so we will be waiting on him. The next applicant is Ms. Shay Reed, and her affidavit starts on page 91 and 92. And I would like to let the board, I'm sorry, that's review her note to us. She is on 90. She has sent a quick note that says she finished her natural hairstyling with the 300. Her variance was only 7 hours. I'm comfortable releasing those, but what I'm getting from the students over the phone, even those that haven't submitted in writing, is some really difficult stories to kind of swallow of the situation these students went through. And that's, in her case, what's there in writing. And the following, Mr. Marcus Gibson. So I will let you have a minute to read this email, and then we will review the last one for Mr. Gibson.
Is there anyone else at the school who's still offering to help sort through this?
We've personally I've not spoken to anyone at the school, so I haven't addressed the students with the discrepancies. I really haven't. I've reached out to them, asked them for any supporting documentation, and then these letters. The board may be faced in February with a hard decision if their word is, yes, I did these, and here's my statement. So Mr. Gibson is the last one that I did want to present to you. His statement is that he went to school between November 2013 and December of 2014. So for about 11 months he attended school, and I believe his statement is that he's finished. I can't find him on any of the hour reports, so I'm asking him for any receipts, anything else he can provide me.
You went
so
in 13
I just-
to 14?
1 year.
1 year.
Pocket, so he should have receipts.
I just wanted to update that so the reason Roxana can only answer partially some of these questions is that there are some legal proceedings in process or currently possibly taking place regarding the revocation of the school's license. So her communication with the owner of the school is going to be limited because of that, since we are basically communicating through lawyers at this point. So it's a fairly complicated situation. I don't expect we will have much cooperation with the school owner for the time being. So this whatever this student has may be all we're going to get for now.
So your request is receipts and anything that would because this last person doesn't exist at all.
Right. I can't confirm him.
He says he's done 1,500 hours of school, and he hasn't shown up on one piece of paper.
Other than his statement his statement is not alone from what I'm hearing on the phone. We need at least something in writing that states, this is the experience I had, this is what I did. But yes, receipts, anything they can provide. Some schools, as you know, both are school owners here, follow a great protocol and give students hourly recaps and what have you. This school, when they were suspended, the board made a decision to give the license back and said there will be no more mistakes, basically, because I revisited the video several times. You know, this is your chance to do it right, no more mistake on hourly reports. And there were various mistakes still afterwards, which is the reason we're back where we are. But having said that, there still wasn't the level of documentation that other schools have, which is weekly they get an update on the screen that they can take a picture of, or receipts of some sort, or an update to take home. So most of these students are at a disadvantage of maybe not having anything. So, but at this point, I will be, if the board is okay, releasing Ms. Shay Reed. It's 7 hours out of the 300. She's the only one that, even though there was a discrepancy, her explanation, and it's not that many. I think if the board is okay, I will accept a motion to release hers. The others, I'm gonna have to, unfortunately, which means till February, there's nothing they can do, wait because the discrepancy is just too large.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to accept Roxana's recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Is there any other questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so it looks like we're done, but we're not. We have two quick things that aren't on your iPads anymore. The first quick update, in case you have not received it, the rules that went into effect that we worked on at that wonderful meeting in January are on our website. If you are not signed up to receive email notification, if you visit the website, tn.gov/commerce, you get to the regulatory boards. They're in alphabetical order under Barber and Cosmetology. Sign up for email notifications. They went out a week and a half ago, I think, like on the 3rd or 4th. And they do have the link to the entire rules. But under our website, we have cosmetology rules and the new cosmetology rules, barber rules and new, just to identify them a little bit. Any school, cosmetology school, where the apprenticeship is now able to be carried out, I am encouraging, I've got, I think, a conference call and an in-person meeting later this week with 3 different schools are coming in person, and I welcome them. I considered sending literature out saying, we're just kind of still drowning in things, and so I figured they can see them, and if they're interested from every continuing education thing I've done, they know that I'm available for this. I really, if we do this, we want to succeed and do it right. PSI has also created separate codes, so we will be tracking those that test under apprenticeship. And so they've been very kind and worked with us. So I think hopefully we're gearing and thinking about all the different options. Laura's been great helping interpret, and then we did training for all of the field inspectors. They've come in. So that's the hope, that soon we'll see which schools take off. And then we're going to encourage those schools to track the hours just with an A for apprenticeship in front of the code. So an AC would be an apprentice that's cosmetologist and so forth. So that's kind of how we hope to know a year from now when we're asked, you know, how's this going? Are they passing more? Are they failing? We have feedback, and hopefully that'll be good. So that's very exciting. And then the last piece, not so good news. So the board office and those board members, both present and past, that work and live in the Memphis area have probably seen that one of our schools hit the news. This was on December the 10th. The school that the board approved for a merger, it was Plaza Beauty School and Southern Institute came together, and they created, the owner of Southern Institute is the one that took over the ownership of the school. We inspected it. They moved to the Plaza Beauty School, which had gone through a huge renovation. And so the school then changed its name to the Center for Cosmetology. However, in the building, it still says Plaza Beauty Academy. So if you hear on the news or have heard people talk about it, it's because they never changed their sign on the outside. In any case, the school had tax issues and was shut down by the state. So on their window, it says the state has shut it down. And so that entire day, Thursday, we've dealt with students, parents, you name it. I would like, as we've unfortunately had to do in the past, the board to go ahead and give me permission to release those hours as students submit the affidavit. We will do it similar to what we did with a previous school and Pyramid. The hours so far from the students I've spoken to are almost identical. They turned in their monthly reports, so I do have hours through November. And the school was open December 1st through the 10th. So I don't know if the board, then if they're off a few hours, is comfortable with us releasing that many more. What I recommended to students, because it's a situation very different in that it's not us revoking the license or doing something. It's a completely separate agency. The Department of Revenue, it's the state. Something either on one of the news media or even that the students have sent me did say that the amount was $1,100. I know from students that they were told to go home immediately. Patrons that had chemicals in their hair were told to go home immediately. So it was a big deal.
It was on the news.
For
Yeah.
$1,100?
That's where I'm going. I'm just, I don't know, because we didn't do it. That's all I said is, it could be fixed tomorrow. Tax situations can be resolved sometimes very easily, sometimes not at all. So I recommended to the
Roxanna,
students.
I did that inspection. Which owner group owed the taxes? Because it's just like a merging group. I couldn't
It's
understand them.
Plaza. My
It is the
understanding is
Plaza.
the back. And, when they presented here, they were very honest. That school said we had financial issues. The attorney at that time for the board was Rob Herndon, and I know that they hired an attorney to talk to us about their expansion, and they'd lost financial aid. And when they did the application with Nancy, they were very honest with that. So from what I've seen and read so far, it appears that it's with the Plaza Beauty Institute side. It is not the new license, which is license 41 but nevertheless, the building and everything, and the
So
students have had to.
they could feasibly reopen though.
They could. So my recommendation to the students, and they've really been awesome, was let's wait till Tuesday or Wednesday because the board wants to make it right for the students. We all do. So with that in mind, they've all been really kind of relaxed. And so if nothing changes by tomorrow or Wednesday, I can guarantee you we're going to be flooded. Now, the last count that I had for the November hours was the majority of their students were the part-time. They had 40-something part-time and 30-something full-time. So
A lot of people.
at the biggest count, I think we're dealing with 77 students, which again is really still a lot to deal with, but we've almost got it down to an art. They'll send in, they'll email me directly so that I can send affidavits to them. When I get the response with the notarized affidavit, I do the withdrawal letters, and they have to, if they're off an hour or two, that's not a problem. But if they're off a percentage, it doesn't make sense. They're stuck till February. I'm hoping that's not going to be the case. Every student I spoke to, I pulled up and the hours matched. And I probably spoke to 20 to 25 just in the last Thursday and Friday.
Has the school been pretty consistent with their reporting and stuff?
Every one of them that I spoke to, it was lining up. So
I thought they were really organized.
And I'll be honest, several students were just very sad. I mean, sad, and had no problem waiting till Wednesday to see where it played out. Now, I've had two schools reach out to us, and one of the schools in the area is willing to charge us $3 a credit hour, which is phenomenal. And so I never encourage one school over the other, but since two called me, I will say both these schools have called. They're willing to work with the students. They've got some options. The Memphis area does have some schools. We recently did the change in ownership. So there's the two Tennessee Academy schools that are changing ownership as well. So the students at least will have some options of schools if this doesn't fix itself.
The letter that you give them just allows them to transfer.
Yes, it's the transfer and release document of their hours. I fill it out based on the hours, notarize, and normally it's a school that fills it out, so I'm the one signing off based on you giving me that permission.
So you just need us to make a motion that we agree that you
Yes.
can do that. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion that's been properly seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Roxanna, what was that, the address a while ago to sign up for the emails?
tn.gov, and if you use a / type commerce, you will be at Commerce and Insurance main page. You'll see regulatory boards and licensing. It's a gentleman in a tie, and then when you click on that, they're all in alphabetical order. Because otherwise, there's a bunch of slashes, and I could be going on forever. So that's your easiest way. And under the contact button at the upper right-hand corner, you'll see sign up, and it says get notified. And at the February meeting, I will update us some more. We've got a really neat concept of customer service in the building. I don't know if you've noticed, the first floor has kind of changed where the mail layout is. They take money there now. They help licensees. They're answering several of the board's calls. We're going to be rolling soon to have our phones helped out and answered as well. Anything very specific, very in-depth will come to the person that's specialized. But a lot of our calls are, you know, I'm late, what do I do? Can you not waive the penalty? Where do I mail it? Those kind of, and so our volume is so high with calls that there's times we can't get the work done. So this is really going to help us. But the concept of the whole customer service thing that's starting with the governor and on down is going to be really great. For you all, for the licensees, for us, I think it'll be great. So it's a work in progress.
When I submitted my early report, I got a email survey back. Good. That was nice.
Good. Yes, you'll see email, the email inquiries are going through a Zendesk method of tracking and answering that's also just, and the people that are there are very qualified, so we're excited. It's a lot of things. So that is the last item I have. Did I miss anything? No?
Is the next meeting February 8th?
Yeah, yes, because February, the first Monday is actually the 1st, and we don't want to do that, so we're doing
Right,
our
Nina,
meeting.
because you have a Super Bowl
You have
party,
Super Bowl
right?
parties, yes.
Wait a minute, this all sounds familiar.
I think I like
So
it.
brilliantly,
Is it?
we are on, yes, February the 8th, which is that second Monday, so we'll meet. And
Didn't get an invite.
And
you have
happy
the big
holidays to everyone. Thank you for the
Thank you,
goodies.
too.
Thank you,
I
Roxanne.
hope everyone's
Laura?
blessed.
Thank you all.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Before we move to adjourn, I want to say something to you ladies and your staff. Thank you for everything you've done. You've worked yourselves to death this year. We see the work that you do. And although you're not always recognized, we appreciate it. And the people out here on the street see the benefit of it. So we do thank you both, all three of you.
Our pleasure. Thank
Half
you.
upstairs that we
Yeah.
never get to meet.
And we're going to go see Candyland.
Let's go see
go see
Candyland and
Candyland.
give them a dang
You
hug for
will-
Christmas. Come
You
on,
will
Ron.
make them happy, and they have.
We
They
are.
worked so hard for it. And here's how I'll also share. They're not finished, because I think we're being graded or on the 21st, but they have separated the duties. They've done it during their break. They've come in early. They've done it late. So it's a work in progress, because as they have time, they do bits and pieces.
So if we really don't like it, don't say anything. Is that what you're saying?
No, you can, because they're not finished. You will love it. I guarantee you. All right, so we do need a motion if we're adjourning.
Yeah.
We were up there for the little 5-minute break, and it is adorable.
Oh,
It is adorable. I second.
Thank you, Nina.
Motion and a second
I'm going to eat all my
adjourn.
candy now.
Everybody say aye.
Aye. Well done, Ron. Nice work.
Everybody have a good Christmas.
I've got your, ooh,
Goodness
throwing
gracious.
them around. Woo!
We are getting better and better around here.
She has
We
to
have-
sign signatures.